Chapter 441. Sovereign Xian. Wasn't this fellow one of the 9 souls in the ancient god sword? Wasn't he already dead? Zhou Xuanji's expression became strange, and Shi Shenzong asked who Sovereign Xian was. Emissary Li Qing looked incredibly respectful as he said, "This person attained the Tao extremely early, and very few people know of his existence. When the sovereign demon sect was first established, Sovereign Xian's might had already shaken the great thousand world." He began to endlessly praise Sovereign Xian. Hearing this, Shi Shenzong felt quite surprised. He had never thought that there would be such a powerful being in the world. Zhou Xuanji suddenly asked, "He's lived for so long. Could he have already fallen?" Hearing this, Emissary Li Qing glared at him and said, "Don't speak nonsense. If the old senior hears this, things will be bad. He's our only hope of survival." Zhou Xuanji felt even more depressed. Sovereign Xian really died. His soul is still in my sword. He asked, "Why don't we go and join Taichu Yudao? Could it be that he's not a match for the malicious Buddhas? Wasn't Taichu Yudao the most powerful person in the Center God province?" Emissary Li Qing shook his head and said, "Even though Taichu Yudao is powerful, he cannot withstand so many experts. Half a month ago, he was ambushed and was heavily injured." Zhou Xuanji frowned. Even Taichu Yudao was heavily injured? Just who was it? He asked Emissary Li Qing, but Emissary Li Qing did not reply. He most likely did not know. The three of them continued onwards. Zhou Xuanji did not dare to summon Sovereign Xian, in case Emissary Li Qing lost all hope. On the way, they felt incredibly uneasy. They were worried for themselves and for the Divine Cliff. Rumble, dense fog rolled about, and the once prosperous Divine Cliff city was now in ruins. Countless disciples lay within the ruins, and there were corpses everywhere. Blood splattered everywhere. The 18 malicious Buddhas in the sky laughed wildly without any restraint. Yang Yutian held his bloodied arm and looked at the malicious Buddhas with a look of reluctance. The malicious Buddhas ignored him because there were too many of them looking at him like this. From today onwards, the Divine Cliff will plummet. I won't destroy you. I'll make you live on in humiliation. The malicious Buddhas laughed maniacally in unison before vanishing into thin air. He alone had killed more than half of the disciples of the Divine Cliff. The 36 envoys and direct disciples were almost all dead, leaving only Yang Yutian alive. Yang Yutian sat paralyzed in the ruins. Despair and confusion occupied his heart. He suddenly thought of Zhou Xuanji. Why wasn't he here? Could it be that Han Shuzi had anticipated this? They flew for about 6 hours. Emissary Li Qing suddenly stopped, causing Zhou Xuanji and Shi Shenzong's hearts to tremble. Shi Shenzong cautiously asked, "What is it?" Emissary Li Qing grit his teeth and said, "It's over." It wasn't that he didn't want to fly, but there was an extremely powerful force restraining him. Zhou Xuanji and his companions' expressions changed. They took out their swords and prepared to fight. "Where do you think you're going?" The malicious Buddha's cold laughter came from all directions. Then the 8 malicious Buddhas walked out from different directions and stepped into the green wind. Zhou Xuanji and the other 2 were surrounded. Emissary Li Qing took a deep breath and asked, "Are you the malicious Buddha?" The malicious Buddha had rushed over. What did this mean? The Divine Cliff? He did not dare to imagine, and his heart was filled with terror. The malicious Buddha ignored him and looked at Zhou Xuanji. After sizing him up, he smiled in satisfaction and said, "You are indeed talented. You even control the violet demon monarch's heart and the Tianxia map. No wonder the demonic emperor wants you so much." The demonic emperor. Shi Shenzong and Emissary Li Qing's expressions changed greatly. They had never expected the mastermind to be the demonic emperor. Theoretically, Zhou Xuanji should not be on the same side as the demonic emperor. Zhou Xuanji did not expect the malicious Buddha to be able to see through the violet demon monarch's heart. Just how high was this fellow's cultivation? Shi Shenzong pointed his sword at the malicious Buddha and said in a low voice, "What do you want?" Just when he spoke, A malicious Buddha appeared behind him and grabbed his shoulder. He threw him out of the green wind and quickly disappeared. In front of the malicious Buddha, Shi Shinzong could not resist at all. Zhou Xuanji's expression sank. He was hesitating if he should use the all-evil yin-yang destruction. He could tell that the malicious Buddha did not want to kill him. Otherwise, he would already be dead. Emissary Li Qing protected Zhou Xuanji and took a deep breath. What benefits did the demonic emperor give you, to Puqi? A withered hand pierced through his chest and ripped out his heart. The hand crushed it, causing blood to splatter onto his clothes. Emissary Li Qing was stunned and looked at the hand in his chest in terror. In the next second, the malicious Buddha directly tore him apart. Blood splattered onto Zhou Xuanji's face, causing him to stand there dumbfounded, and his body slightly trembled. Another malicious Buddha grabbed Emissary Li Qing's soul. Zhou Xuanji looked closely. This is true power. No matter how peerless your talent is, you will still feel despair. The malicious Buddhas lightly laughed. Their laughter was incredibly terrifying and savage. Emissary Li Qing's soul was directly crushed by the malicious Buddha. His soul dissipated, and he could no longer be reincarnated. Zhou Xuanji's pupils constricted, and a terrifying aura exploded out, scattering the green wind around him. Just as he was about to take out the all-evil yin-yang destruction, a malicious Buddha appeared in front of him and grabbed his throat. Their eyes met, and Zhou Xuanji's eyes were filled with the malicious Buddha's savage face. Boom! A terrifying soul impact sent Zhou Xuanji's consciousness into an abyss, and he fell unconscious. The malicious Buddha grabbed him and coldly laughed as he said, "No matter how angry you are, it's useless. In front of absolute power, the weak have no hope." Under the azure sky, there was a boundless grassy plain. Zhou Xuanji lay on the grass as a light breeze blew past. He suddenly opened his eyes and sat up straight. He breathed deeply and instinctively looked around. Where am I? He looked around in confusion before examining his body. You're going to die. A voice sounded out from behind him, causing him to look back in shock. He saw a man wearing tiger-patterned blood-red clothes standing behind him. His figure was tall and straight, blocking out the sunlight. He hurriedly stood up. This man was half a head taller than him and had broad shoulders. His black hair was slightly messy, and his eye sockets were very dark. His eyelids were sunken in, and he had no eyeballs. Zhou Xuanji asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" The man in blood-red clothes calmly replied, "I'm the owner of the Tianxia map. You should have heard of my name. Gu Tianxia." Zhou Xuanji came back to his senses. Wasn't this the virtual world that he had entered when he first obtained the Tianxia map? Gu Tianxia walked to his side, raised his head, and murmured, "The malicious Buddha is really a ruthless character. Even in my peak state, I am not even 1/10 of him." Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "If so, what's the point of seeing me?" From the looks of it, his physical body had already been imprisoned by the malicious Buddha. Gu Tianxia replied, "Our experiences are the same. We're both pawns of the great Emperor Dao, Court's Xiandaoya. However, we can't just give up." Great Emperor Dao, Court? What was that? Zhou Xuanji frowned even more. It was the first time he had heard of this name. The Great Emperor Dao Court is a faction that was born at the beginning of the world. No one knows how many people are hidden within, and they are incredibly mysterious. Xiandaoya is one of them. Gu Tianxia said faintly, which made Zhou Xuanji even more confused. Why would such a powerful force hide in the dark? Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 442. Are you wondering why the Great Emperor Dao Court is hiding in the dark? Gu Tianxia asked. Having heard him, Zhou Xuanji nodded lightly. Wasn't this guy blind? No, this was the virtual world. It didn't matter if he was blind or not. Gu Tianxia answered his own question. The Great Emperor Dao Court is indeed powerful, but there are definitely powerful existences restricting them, just like the mysterious existences in the 33rd heaven and the ancient celestial race that disappeared a long time ago. Above the 33 heavens? Zhou Xuanji suddenly thought of Marquis. His original body was in closed-door cultivation there. According to what Marquis had said, there was a very powerful existence watching over them. Could that person be an existence that could resist the great Emperor Dao court? He had heard of the ancient immortal clan, a true immortal god. It was acknowledged by the heavenly Dao. Malicious Buddha's mission is to deliver you to the demonic emperor, but Xian Daoya has been plotting against you and will not give up. There will definitely be a battle between the two of them, and that will be your chance. I will use the Tianxiao map to teleport him out. As for where he will be teleported to, that will be up to the heavens. Gu Tianxia turned to Zhou Xuanji and said softly. He said it in a very relaxed manner. Zhou Xuanji asked, "They are so powerful. Even if I escape, they will find me." Gu Tianxiao replied, "Being able to escape once is one thing. They are not omnipotent. The reason why they can find you is because everyone in the world knows that you are at the divine cliff." Zhou Xuanji came back to his senses. If the demonic emperor and malicious Buddha were that powerful, they would have found him long ago. There would have been no need for them to wait for so many years. Gu Tianxiao opened his eyelids suddenly. His eyeballs were like two black holes, and Zhou Xuanji's face twitched in fear. Xian Daoya nurtured me before, but he killed me when I wasn't paying attention. However, I left behind my eyes. If you can find them, you can revive me. I am filled with hatred towards Xian Daoya, so if you can revive me, I will never rest until Xian Daoya is dead. The pressure on you will also decrease. Gu Tianxia stared at Zhou Xuanji and said slowly. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. Why were they still thinking about reviving after dying? He couldn't help but recall the past. Were all the enemies he had killed really dead? All right, I hope that the next time we meet, I'll be alive to see you. Gu Tianxia said as he waved his hand. Without waiting for Zhou Xuanji's consent, he shattered the virtual world. Boom! Zhou Xuanji woke up as though he had just woken up from a dream. The firelight shone on his face. He found himself lying on the ground, surrounded by trees and a bright moon hanging in the night sky. He turned his head and saw malicious Buddha sitting not far away. His doppelgangers were no longer there. The malicious Buddha noticed that he had woken up, but he did not care. He held a piece of yellow skin in his hand and examined it carefully. Zhou Xuanji did not speak and silently sized up the malicious Buddha. This guy was really ugly. Thinking about Emissary Li Qing's tragic death, Zhou Xuanji could not suppress the fury in his heart. One day, he would make the malicious Buddha die a horrible death. "You want to kill me?" the malicious Buddha asked without even batting an eye. Zhou Xuanji did not reply. Even though he was furious, he was not stupid. Contradicting malicious Buddha now would only make him suffer. Malicious Buddha continued to stare at the yellow skin and said softly, "I understand your feelings. In fact, I feel even more pain than you do. Do you know why I turned from a Buddha to a demon? It's because a Buddha can't change anything. He can't save others, and he can't save himself either. If he becomes a demon, he will have nothing to fear. That's the strongest state." Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. What villain doesn't have a reason? However, no reason is enough to stop you from taking revenge on the world. You're a sword cultivator, so if you become a demon, you will definitely be very powerful. I've seen a sword demon before, and that fellow was incredibly powerful. If he was still alive, he would definitely be one of the top 10 existences in the Great Thousand World, the malicious Buddha said as he continued to laugh. It was as if he had opened a chatterbox, and he began to speak endlessly, praising the sword demon. Zhou Xuanji did not want to become a demon. He had a wife and daughter, as well as people he cared about, and he did not want to harm them. Looking at Devil Emperor Dugu, even though he usually looked like he had everything under control and was very gentle, after ascending, he often became bedeviled. The malicious Buddha picked up the yellow skin and waved it at Zhou Xuanji as he smiled and said, "Do you know what this is?" Zhou Xuanji said grumpily, "Your bottom skin?" The malicious Buddha chuckled and said, "The skin of the ancient immortal clan. The ancient immortal clan are true immortal gods, and every piece of skin and hair contains the power of heavenly law. I'm researching why they are immortal gods." Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "You're so powerful. Could it be that you're inferior to immortal gods?" The malicious Buddha loudly laughed, his tone filled with condescension. "The ancient immortal clan has already declined. I just want to research the power of heavenly law. Do you believe that someone can stand shoulder to shoulder with heavenly law?" His tone became fervent. "Stand shoulder to shoulder with heavenly law?" Zhou Xuanji casually replied, "Of course, heavenly law is just a type of rule. When one is powerful enough to become a rule, that is the heavenly law. If one can surpass the rule, one can surpass heavenly law. However, there are many realms above heavenly law, and they are endless." He had read many Xianxia novels in his previous life, and it was not difficult for him to make up a story. One of his favorite Xianxia novels was Ren Wuxiu. Back then, when he saw the main character reach the saint realm and stand shoulder to shoulder with heavenly law, he felt incredibly delighted. In the end, the saint realm was just the beginning, and it was incredibly awesome. This was especially so when he saw the main character become a supreme heavenly emperor, transcending time and space and creating everything. He was incredibly impressed. Fortunately, that fellow had not transmigrated, or else there were still ways to survive as a storyteller in the other world. Of course, it was impossible to become an immortal because the main characters that this fellow wrote were all very arrogant. Those with personalities would be beaten to death on the path of cultivation. Oh, the heavenly law is a rule? Malicious Buddha's eyes lit up, and he seemed to be lost in thought. He seemed to have thought of something, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Zhou Xuanji saw that there was hope. He immediately started talking nonsense. Tao could be Tao, but it's not a Tao. Heaven is Tao. Earth is Tao. Tao begets one. One begets two. Two begets three. Three begets all things. The malicious Buddha frowned but did not interrupt him. Zhou Xuanji bragged without thinking, and he felt great about it. "How is it? Are you scared now?" Malicious Buddha said with a look of disdain. "What are you talking about? Are you trying to fool a child?" Zhou Xuanji was stunned. The hegemon sword emperor was enlightened by these words, but this guy did not fall for it. He changed the topic and asked, "Where is the demonic emperor?" The malicious Buddha replied, "Somewhere very far away." "How far?" "Far beyond your imagination." "How far is that?" "I told you, you can't imagine it." "Then tell me." Malicious Buddha turned to look at Zhou Xuanji with a savage smile and killing intent. Zhou Xuanji kept his mouth shut. He prayed in his heart that Xiandaoya would come quickly. Only then would he be able to leave amidst the chaos. If malicious Buddha found the demonic emperor, Xiandaoya would have no chance of winning. The night deepened. Flames flickered between the two of them, and malicious Buddha turned his attention back to the yellow skin. The night passed. When the first ray of sunlight fell, malicious Buddha still had no intention of getting up. Zhou Xuanji could not help but ask, "Why aren't you leaving?" Malicious Buddha said calmly, "Waiting for Xiandaoya." Zhou Xuanji frowned. This guy knew that Xiandaoya was coming. Chapter 443. Malicious Buddha said that he would wait for Xiandaoya, so he stopped. Zhou Xuanji did not know where he was and how far he was from the demonic emperor. He began to recover his magic energy. Malicious Buddha did not seal his cultivation. It seemed that this guy was really arrogant and was not afraid of him escaping. When it was close to noon, malicious Buddha left with Zhou Xuanji. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji noticed that they did not fly very fast. This guy was still waiting for Xiandaoya. 3 days later, the two landed before a cliff. Malicious Buddha put him down and stood by the cliff without saying a word. Zhou Xuanji sat down and ignored him. An hour later, "Come out," malicious Buddha said. "How long are you going to follow me? Are the people of the great Emperor Tao court all scoundrels like you?" Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. Finally, a gust of cold wind blew. The sky was cloudless, and there was no one else in sight. TSK, TSK. Malicious Buddha, I didn't expect someone like you to become the demonic emperor's lackey. You said that your life is greater than the heavens, and that your strength can surpass saints. What a joke. Xian Douya's mocking laughter came, and the temperature in the surroundings plummeted. Zhou Xuanji remained calm and waited for the battle to begin. However, Emperor Zhao said that Xian Douya was not powerful and might be suppressed by malicious Buddha. Soon, Xian Douya appeared on the opposite cliff and looked at malicious Buddha. Their eyes met, and the corner of malicious Buddha's mouth rose. Clones appeared out of nowhere and surrounded Xian Douya. Zhou Xuanji always felt that these clones were alive, like malicious Buddha's twin brothers. Of course, this was nonsense. How could malicious Buddha's mother give birth to so many at once? Or maybe she was not human. Zhou Xuanji's imagination ran wild and made malicious guesses about malicious Buddha. Malicious Buddha laughed coldly and said, Xian Douya, I advise you to leave the great Emperor Dao court. You work so hard for them, but they never help you recover your body. You are not even recognized by the heavenly law. Why do you need to work so hard? You just don't understand, Xian Douya said calmly. Malicious Buddha pointed at Zhou Xuanji and said with a smile, You want to possess him? Back then, you treated Gu Tianxia like this. But that brat is powerful, and you're asking for trouble. Zhou Xuanji frowned. Xian Douya wants to possess me? He took a closer look and found that Xian Douya's expression was indeed a bit unnatural. Xian Douya pulled out a spine from his sleeve. It was white with many black lines. He held the long bone in his hand and waved it lightly. Black cyclones appeared out of thin air around him. Then, countless skeletons rose up. There were human bones, demon bones, and even the skeletons of giants the size of mountains. A great battle was about to break out. Zhou Xuanji called out to Gu Tianxia in his mind. Unfortunately, Gu Tianxia did not answer. He was not worried. If Gu Tianxia wanted to live, he could only rely on him. The clones of the malicious Buddha charged towards Xian Douya. Xian Douya disappeared into thin air, and the skeleton army that he summoned started fighting against the clones of the malicious Buddha. Boom! 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 Explosions rang out one after another, and the cliff collapsed, sending dust and dirt flying everywhere. Zhou Xuanji quickly retreated far away from the battlefield. The malicious Buddha did not follow him closely, as if he was not worried that he would escape. Xian Douya, do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're immortal? Today, I will suppress you and let you have a taste of eternity of boredom and loneliness. The malicious Buddha laughed wildly. He raised his arms horizontally, and two black orbs of light shot out from his palms. Lightning coiled around them, shaking the space. A violent gale blew and gathered around the black orbs, forming a powerful gale. Even though Zhou Xuanji was 1,000 meters away, his clothes were still fluttering in the wind. Still not escaping, Zhou Xuanji cried out in his heart. The malicious Buddha was powerful indeed. Just his aura alone made him feel like his soul was about to leave his body. One must know that he was already an 8th revolution golden immortal. It was hard to imagine how powerful the malicious Buddha was. Xian Douya suddenly appeared above the malicious Buddha's head. With the bone whip in his right hand, he lashed out with great force, causing the air to explode. The malicious Buddha dodged it easily and swung his palms. The two black orbs exploded straight away, giving off a dazzling radiance that caused the heavens and earth to lose their colors. The two of them were engulfed by it. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt dizzy, as though the world was spinning. The next second, he lost consciousness. A shaking sensation woke Zhou Xuanji up, and he opened his eyes slowly. He was shocked to find himself lying in a prison cart. His white shirt was torn and covered in blood. His face was also covered in bloodstains. He wanted to move, but found that he was powerless, and his magic energy was depleted. We can reach Lujiang City in another 800 miles. The Center God Province is really chaotic recently. The Tao Heaven sect lord was severely injured, and the Divine Cliff suffered countless casualties. The Cliff Lord even died suddenly. I heard that it's all because of Zhou Xuanji. Who did Zhou Xuanji offend? This is the bane of Lone Star. Whoever gets close to him will be unlucky. The surrounding soldiers discussed among themselves as they moved forward. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly and glanced at a beggar girl beside him. The girl was covered in dirt and gave off an indescribable stench. Her hair was a mess, and she was sleeping at the corner of the prison cart. What's going on? This is... Zhou Xuanji felt dizzy, as though his head was going to explode. He began to heal himself. The soldiers noticed that he had woken up and began to tease him. At that moment, a general riding a tiger-patterned horse came near the prison cart and asked, "Tell me your name. Which sect are you from?" This general only had 6 tribulation scattered immortal cultivation. Because Zhou Xuanji was heavily injured and did not have any magic energy. In his eyes, he was like a mortal and posed no threat at all. This prison cart was made of special wood and was extremely sturdy. There were restrictions within, and even great tribulation scattered immortals would find it difficult to break through. Zhou Xuanji replied, "I'm called Zhou Menglang from the Heavenly Hall. I was attacked by enemies when I went out to train." Heavenly Hall. The general and soldiers' expressions slightly changed, but they did not panic. The Heavenly Hall was quite far away from here. They were not afraid of the Heavenly Hall. The general warned, "I advise you not to think about escaping. The nearby area is filled with demons. If you run around with your current injuries, you will only die miserably." After saying this, he rode to the front of the group. Zhou Xuanji noticed that there were over 1,000 soldiers in the group, and there were close to 100 prison carts holding humans and demons. He wondered where these people wanted to take him. He was not afraid. Even though he did not have magic energy, he still had his legendary sword. He stealthily took out the ultimate great beast bag and let Bai Suwen out, allowing her to hide in his embrace. Bai Suwen sent a telepathic message. "I can't hold it in anymore." Her tone was filled with resentment. Zhou Xuanji had no choice. The divine cliff had been attacked, and he did not have much time to think. He could only forcefully put Bai Suwen into the ultimate great beast bag, and he did not have the opportunity to take her out again. He comforted her a little before continuing to heal himself. At that moment, the beggar girl, who was in the same prison cart as him, woke up. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was healing himself, she was pleasantly surprised before feeling guilty. She said carefully, "I'm sorry, I wanted to save you, but I did not expect to encounter people from the Sovereign Demon sect." Chapter 444. Thank you for saving me. You said that this is the territory of the Sovereign Demon sect. Can you tell me about it? Zhou Xuanji looked at the beggar girl and thanked her before asking. This girl was kind after all. How could he blame her? At the same time, he was shocked in his heart. The Tianxia map's movement was horrifying. Even someone as powerful as him felt as though his body was about to be torn apart. The beggar girl heaved a sigh of relief and said, "This is the south of the Center God province, near the Cloud Devil Pool. Recently, for some reason, the demon race outside the Center God province began to invade. The Sovereign Demon sect is fighting against them, and we will be captured as slaves to dig spirit stones and treasures for them." Zhou Xuanji nodded and began thinking. From today onwards, he would be hunted down by the demonic emperor and the great Emperor Dao Court. He would remember what happened to the Divine Cliff and seek revenge in the future. But the most important thing now was to figure out what to do next. His initial goal after ascending was to cultivate hard and reach the true God stage as soon as possible before returning to protect the Northern Wilderness region. But now, he had become a stray dog. The world was so vast, but where should he go? His only advantage was that his fate was unpredictable, so his enemies could not divine him. Forget it. Just like before, he would find a secluded place to cultivate and search for the whereabouts of the 18 divine swords. He sighed. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Whenever he thought about emissary Li Qing and Han Shuzi, he could not control the murderous intent in his heart. Ever since he came to the Northern Wilderness region, the Divine Cliff was the first faction that treated him well. Tanhua sect did not count. It was only forced by Xian Xianghua. He thought about Xian Xianghua again. He did not know where that old demonic woman was and whether she was safe. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was depressed, the beggar girl blamed herself even more. She came to Zhou Xuanji's side and comforted him softly. I will surely save you. Let me heal you. After that, she stretched out her right hand and pressed on Zhou Xuanji's palm. In that instant, a wave of coolness seeped into Zhou Xuanji's body, making him feel refreshed. He looked at her in astonishment. Because there were too many people around, it was not convenient for him to take out the Holy Light Redemption Sword. He did not expect this girl to know healing techniques. However, this technique's healing ability was not very powerful. It was considered a divine technique for those below the spirit refinement stage. Zhou Xuanji asked, "You have such a technique, so why are you in such dire straits? If she opened a clinic, she wouldn't be so poor." The beggar girl whispered, "I'm protecting myself. You can call me Little Chan." She sounded a little excited. Judging from Zhou Xuanji's tone, it was evident that he did not reject her. She began to make small calculations. It was difficult for a person to survive alone. She wanted to rope Zhou Xuanji in and make him her subordinate. This way, she would have someone to protect her. The more she thought about it, the happier she became. Zhou Xuanji was confused by her passionate attitude, but he did not say much. Then, he shut his mouth and focused on his cultivation. Xiao Chan didn't disturb him. As he cultivated, he paid attention to the conversation of the soldiers. 10 days had passed since the attack on the Divine Cliff, and this matter had shaken the Center God Province. Even overlord forces like the Divine Cliff and the Dao Heaven sect had been attacked one after another. If it had been any other force, would they have been flattened in a short period of time? Panic spread throughout the Center God Province. All the cultivators were discussing who had attacked the Divine Cliff and the Dao Heaven sect. After Zhou Xuanji heard about the Divine Cliff's situation, he felt even worse. The team continued to trek across mountains and rivers. The reason why they didn't fly was because they wanted to capture more slaves along the way. Zhou Xuanji saw the demons as well. Those demons looked like humans, but were not. They had the characteristics of other living creatures, and the demonic qi surrounding them was visible to the naked eye. At the same cultivation stage, demons were generally more powerful than humans. Moreover, they were violent and could hardly control their emotions, just like wild beasts. A day later, Zhou Xuanji was prepared to leave. He got up slowly and took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword. He held it in a backhand grip, and the blade cut his arm. He looked down at Xiao Chan and asked, "Do you want to come with me?" Xiao Chan, who was half asleep, rubbed her eyes and mumbled, "What are you thinking about? You should be the one coming with me." Boom! The 9-flame chimera demon sword appeared beside Zhou Xuanji suddenly. A horrifying energy exploded and destroyed the prison carriage. Xiao Chan was so shocked that she lost her sleepiness immediately. She was sent flying away by the 9-flame chimera demon's energy. Fortunately, the sky-dominating divine sword appeared behind her in time and caught her with its blade. Zhou Xuanji stood on the wind cutter sword, and numerous legendary swords appeared around him. He ignored the terrified soldiers and flew toward a certain direction on the River of Swords. Xiao Chan was sucked by the sky-dominating divine sword and followed closely behind him. "Stop!" The leading general cried out and charged toward Zhou Xuanji with his saber drawn. The Ghost Emperor Extreme Abyss turned around and slashed. Countless evil ghosts charged out, and the general was so frightened that he turned around and ran. Xiao Chan opened her eyes wide. Seeing those evil ghosts, she was dumbfounded. Could Zhou Xuanji be a demon? Her expression turned into despair. After flying for 6 hours, Zhou Xuanji stopped in a bamboo forest. He began cultivating with the Holy Light Redemption sword in hand. The Ghost Emperor Extreme Abyss and 9-flame Chimera Demon sword landed beside him to protect him. He stored the other legendary swords into the Supreme Storage. After Xiao Chan landed, she kept her distance from Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji said without opening his eyes, "You can leave now. Head east, and there's a city 300 miles away." Xiao Chan was stunned and fell into a dilemma. Although Zhou Xuanji did not look like a kind person, if she left Zhou Xuanji, she might be captured by the Sovereign Demon sect and become a slave again. "Can I stay? I can be your maidservant," she said carefully. Zhou Xuanji said without hesitation, "Impossible. We don't owe each other anything. It's time for you to leave." Xiao Chan's cultivation was too weak, and her healing spells were not enough. She would only be a burden if he kept her by his side. Next, he planned to find a place to continue his closed-door cultivation and break through to 10th Revolution Golden Immortal as soon as possible. Xiao Chan said anxiously, "Bring me along. Although I'm not powerful enough, I know the southern region of the Center God Province very well. You will surely need my help in some way." Zhou Xuanji frowned and did not reply immediately. Xiao Chan sat down obediently and did not dare to disturb him. 3 days later, Zhou Xuanji's injuries were completely healed. His soul was not injured, and the injuries on his body did not spread to his inner pellet and astral infant. He left with Xiao Chan. He flew at full speed all the way and finally found a forest with relatively abundant spiritual qi. He used the divine sword to open up a cave and used a sealing technique to seal the entrance of the cave. He let Bai Suan out and said, "The two of you stay in the cave and cultivate. Before I come out from my closed-door cultivation, don't go out." Xiao Chan heard him and looked a little bitter. Closed-door cultivation? How long would that take? Zhou Xuanji ignored her and sat down immediately. He took out the Tao Fetus Red Loathe Pearl and continued his cultivation. To prevent any accidents, he took out the ancient God Sword and placed it beside him. Although the 9 souls did not come out, they could communicate with him spiritually. He told the 9 souls about what happened during this period of time. Emperor Zhao was amazed and said, "How pathetic. Brother, let me revive. If I revive, I will fight for the position of the sovereign demon sect lord. At that time, I will help you hide the news so that you can hide in peace. At the same time, I will help you find the whereabouts of the 18 divine swords. Come, wonderful book house." Chapter 445. Hearing Emperor Zhao's suggestion, Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart, "How can I help you revive?" Emperor Zhao fell silent. Saber Monarch Dong Hai sneered. Gu Tianxiao left his eyes as a medium, "But what about you? The Eternal Emperor is nothing more than this." Emperor Zhao was furious, and he started bickering with Saber Monarch Dong Hai. Zhou Xuanji then asked Sovereign Xian how he died. Venerable Xian hesitated for a while before saying, "I want to know how strong the heavenly Tao is. I flew to the 36th heaven and was destroyed by the heavenly Tao." Zhou Xuanji was stunned, and the other 8 souls also fell silent. What an embarrassing way to die. "So you're committing suicide?" Emperor Zhao sighed, his tone filled with mockery. In any case, they had no other choice. Venerable Xian was digging his own grave. However, this also proved that Xian Zun was very strong. Otherwise, why would he challenge the heavenly path? Tao Lord Xiantian asked, "Your name has Xiantian in it. Have you heard of me?" Sovereign Xian asked, "Who are you?" Tao Lord Xiantian fell silent. Zhou Xuanji conversed with them as he absorbed the Tao Fetus Red Loathe Pearl's spirit qi. Xiao Chan chatted with Bai Suan. Both of them were girls, so it was easy for them to get along. Lu Wuji's voice sounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind. "Your current situation is indeed troublesome, but it is not hopeless. Magistrate Chui is right. You should go and find the 18 divine swords. Although malicious Buddha is powerful, he is still a demon and does not dare to get close to the divine swords. The demonic emperor did not act personally, so there must be a reason. As for the other experts of the great Emperor Tao court, there are ways to deal with them. There are many people like you, such as Devil Emperor Dugu, Marquis, Great Emperor Wang, and many others. You can think of a way to draw out some of the hidden geniuses or revive us. Our revival will be able to draw the attention of the great Emperor Tao court and the demonic emperor. Although his words were filled with selfishness, they were indeed reasonable." Zhou Xuanji still had another question. "The demonic emperor should be your junior. Why is he so powerful that the malicious Buddha is willing to serve him?" Lu Wuji replied, "He became a devil. No one knows exactly why. Becoming a demon." Zhou Xuanji suddenly thought of the malicious Buddha's words. Becoming a demon would make one stronger? Why didn't the sovereign demon sect and the demon race dominate the great thousand world. He couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it. For the next period of time, malicious Buddha and Xiandaoya did not come again. At first, Zhou Xuanji was a little worried, but he soon calmed down. It seemed like Xiandaoya couldn't calculate his whereabouts and could only rely on asking around. 1.5 years later, Zhou Xuanji turned 100 years old. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 100 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Armageddon, Holy Light Divine Shadow Sword, Heavenly Soul, Chaotic God Demon Seeking Sword, Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes, and joy flashed in his eyes. His 100th birthday was indeed incredible, directly giving him a world-destroying, godly sword. Information about the two swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name: Holy Light Divine Shadow Sword Grade. Armageddon description: the Sword of Holy Light. When the sword is drawn, divine shadows will dance between the heavens and earth. It possesses the power to destroy the world and can create extreme illusions in battle. Only golden immortals and above can use it. Sword name: Chaotic God Demon Seeking Sword Level. Heavenly Soul description: this sword was forged by the will of the gods and demons. Those who are not mentally strong should not use it. Sword of Holy Light? Could it be a series? Zhou Xuanji thought of the Holy Light Redemption Sword and took it out. A dazzling radiance appeared and illuminated the entire cave. Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen turned around in shock. It was a sword of light. The blade was very wide, and it was 5 meters long. He could feel the warmth of the sword in his hand. He waved the sword gently, and the sword chi swept out, directly colliding with the wall. A crack appeared, and the whole mountain trembled. Zhou Xuanji quickly stored the sword. Facing Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen's gazes, he closed his eyes straight away and did not explain. Xiao Chan already knew Zhou Xuanji's identity. Even with Zhou Xuanji's warning, Bai Suwen still spilled the beans. Ever since she knew about this, Xiao Chan was dead set on Zhou Xuanji. The Sword Emperor is indeed the Sword Emperor. Even a random sword is so cool, she praised. It was a pity that her flattery was not reciprocated. Zhou Xuanji began to receive Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. When he finished the inheritance, he became excited. This sword technique could become his most powerful sword technique. More accurately, it would be his most powerful divine ability. He used his soul power to control his swords so that they could attack the enemies near him. The range was controlled by him, and with the help of the heavenly law of celestial power, each sword would radiate with a celestial radiance. Heavenly laws, celestial power. He immediately got up and left to cultivate this divine ability. Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen's eyes brightened and followed him. After staying in this cave for 1.5 years, they were almost suffocated. In the forest, Zhou Xuanji took out all his legendary swords and began practicing. Don't go too far away. If you expose yourself, I will abandon you without hesitation because you're seeking death. Zhou Xuanji warned, which frightened Xiao Chan so much that she stuck out her tongue. Bai Suwen, on the other hand, did not care at all. Sword Sect Immortal Cry was a divine ability without any sword moves. After he inherited the chi circulation technique and the method to mobilize the heavenly law's celestial power, he quickly learned it. At first, he controlled 10 swords. After the heavenly law's celestial power was injected into them, each of them glowed with a silver radiance and circled around him at high speed. With a thought, the legendary swords slashed toward a small mountain. With a loud boom, the small mountain was pulverized. Since he mastered the 10,000 Sword Dragon incantation, it was not difficult for him to learn Sword Sect Immortal Cry. However, the heavenly law's celestial power was extremely domineering. It was even more powerful than the world's energy. He could not control the legendary swords precisely. 10 days later, Zhou Xuanji completely mastered Sword Sect Immortal Cry. He captured Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen and returned to the cave to continue cultivating. Half a year later, he successfully broke through to 9th Revolution Golden Immortal. 2 years later, he broke through to 10th Revolution Golden Immortal. The Tao fetus red loathe pearl was completely absorbed and turned into dust. The further he progressed, the faster he absorbed. He felt that it had something to do with the heavenly law's celestial power. Ever since he learned Sword Sect Immortal Cry, his cultivation grew faster and faster. In 2.5 years, he obtained 3 legendary swords. They were the Tridao Sword, Caged Wolf Sword, and Pompous Sword. All of them were amethyst. Apparently, the Armageddon Legendary Sword and Sword Sect Immortal Cry had used up all his luck. After the breakthrough, Zhou Xuanji felt refreshed and left with Xiao Chan and Bai Suan. "Where are we going next?" Xiao Chan asked curiously. She looked back at the cave, which was the place where she stayed for 4 years. In these 4 years, she had maintained the appearance of a beggar. Although she washed her face and body, revealing her delicate and pretty face, Zhou Xuanji did not give her new clothes, which made her quite depressed. Her storage ring had long been taken away by the sovereign demon sect's demonic disciples. Zhou Xuanji looked at the horizon and said, "Search for the 18 divine swords." As a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal, he felt that he was comparable to a void extreme immortal. But compared to the malicious Buddha, he was still far from it. "I know a place. There's an old immortal who has lived for countless years. He lives in seclusion in the mountains. He might know the whereabouts of the 18 divine swords." Xiao Chan said excitedly. Having heard her, Zhou Xuanji took out the truth sword and placed it on her shoulder. The blade grazed her skin lightly. "Come, wonderful bookhouse." Chapter 446. Xiao Chan was stunned. A slight pain came from her right shoulder, and her eyes turned red immediately, as though she was about to cry. "You don't believe me?" she asked, biting her lip lightly. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "Is what you said true? What is the background of that old immortal?" Xiao Chan felt extremely wronged, which turned into anger. "Of course it's true. What good do I get from harming you? No one knows the background of that old immortal. He saved me when I was in danger and taught me cultivation. He is a man of virtue and will never harm anyone." Zhou Xuanji stored the truth sword and said with a smile, "I'm just teasing you." Xiao Chan was still angry. She looked at Zhou Xuanji with grievance and anger in her eyes, as though she was about to cry at any moment. Bai Suan flew to her shoulder and said with a smile, "He's worried that you'll be bewitched by powerful enemies with divine abilities. Do you know how powerful the enemies he is facing are? They can kill someone from thousands of miles away." The grand teacher who nurtured him since he was young was the reincarnation of the enemy's soul. That grand teacher raised his mother, which means that he started to scheme from birth. Xiao Chan heard her and opened her eyes wide. She shuddered in fear. She looked at Zhou Xuanji with pity in her eyes. Zhou Xuanji did not explain, but asked her to lead the way. He flew on a sword with Xiao Chan in front of him. He held her shoulder while Bai Suan looked around in his arms. Along the way, they often saw battles. The sovereign demon sect and the demons fought everywhere. They captured civilians and made life difficult for them. There were mortals in the Great Thousand World, but their physiques were generally stronger than those in the mortal realm. The time when the demons attacked the Center God province was very close to the time when Zhou Xuanji's identity was exposed. He had to think about it. 4 days later, they flew out of the sovereign demon sect's territory. In the Center God province, there was only one sovereign power, and that was the Great Heaven God dynasty. Under the Great Heaven God dynasty, there were no other empires or kingdoms. It was a great crime to establish a dynasty without permission. The Great Heaven God dynasty had vast influence. In terms of territory, it was definitely the largest in the Center God province. However, the mortal realm was not under their control, but was controlled by sects and clans. No one knew the name of the old immortal that Xiao Chan mentioned. He was in the forest south of the Great Heaven God dynasty. The place was filled with miasma, but the demons were generally weak. They were probably afraid of him. Zhou Xuanji walked carefully and avoided contact with any strangers, including demons. Along the way, he sent Bai Suan to the cities to gather information. After malicious Buddha attacked the divine cliff, he did not reappear, and the divine cliff and Tao heaven sect regained their peace. The world continued to spin, but the divine cliff was greatly weakened and was suppressed by the surrounding factions. Zhou Xuanji wanted to help, but he could not. What was worth mentioning was that Shi Shenzong had not died. He had helped the divine cliff before, but he had been encountered by the hegemon Sword Emperor and taken away. There were too many things to do in the Center God province, and the northern wilderness region was too small compared to it. The information that Bai Suwen could gather was limited. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt the need to create an intelligence organization that was hidden in the dark. One day, he suddenly stopped, because he sensed a familiar aura. Bai Hao Yisan, with a flash of inspiration, he immediately followed the aura and rushed over. 100 kilometers away, on a hill, Bai Hao Yisan lay down in satisfaction. There were 6 flirtatious women sitting beside him, laughing and chatting happily. Zhou Xuanji landed on the summit suddenly. He hit his aura with the qi obscuring incantation, but Bai Hao Yisan could sense Bai Suwen and Xiao Chan's auras. The enchanting fragrance of a young girl. Bai Hao Yisan looked up in fascination and saw Zhou Xuanji. He was so shocked that he jumped up immediately, causing the women to scream. He looked at Zhou Xuanji warily and said with a low voice, "Brat, why are you here?" He cursed in his heart. His luck was too bad. It was not easy for him to sneak out to have fun without Feng Yul nagging him. And now, he encountered this little fiend. "Where's Feng Yul?" Zhou Xuanji asked with a smile. Bai Hao Yisan curled his lip and said, "He's cultivating with this emperor's revered teacher." "Why? Aren't you afraid that this emperor's revered teacher will discover you? He really wants to deal with you." He glanced at Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen and sighed in his heart. This brat was so lucky, especially that little white snake. He immediately guessed that it was the 9 heaven divine snake. When she transformed, she would definitely be devastatingly beautiful. After the 9 heaven divine snake transformed, she would be handsome and beautiful. Just thinking about it made him excited. Zhou Xuanji's heart trembled. Bai Hao Yisan's revered teacher? His expression did not change as he said, "Bai Hao Yisan, we have no enmity. Why don't we work together?" "Work together?" Bai Hao Yisan straightened his back immediately and said proudly, "Why should this emperor work together with you?" Zhou Xuanji said with squinted eyes, "There must be a reason for you to descend to the mortal realm. But you suffered so much in the mortal realm. Evidently, someone is plotting against you. If we work together in secret, we will still be enemies. But secretly, we can exchange information and help each other." Bai Hao Yisan heard him and was infuriated. He thought of Xian Daoya. That old bastard. Actually, back at Juedi Cliff, he was already convinced by Zhou Xuanji. He admired Zhou Xuanji's courage and righteousness. It was not bad to work together with this brat. As for his revered teacher, how could he defeat Zhou Xuanji in his current state? Bai Hao Yisan looked at the beauties beside him and said, "Wait for this emperor in the forest." The beauties curled their lips and left reluctantly. Zhou Xuanji also sent Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen away to show his sincerity. The two walked up to each other and did not put up their guard. Zhou Xuanji spoke first. "You and I are both from the northern wilderness, and we get along so well. Let me talk about my current enemies first." He mentioned Xian Daoya, the demonic emperor, and the malicious Buddha. When he heard about Xian Daoya, Bai Hao Yisan opened his eyes wide and almost cursed it out. That old bastard again. After Zhou Xuanji finished speaking, Bai Hao Yisan harumphed and said, "Sure. This emperor wants to deal with Xian Daoya too." Zhou Xuanji told him about his plan again. He also promised to bring in Emperor Zhao, Gu Tianxia, Devil Emperor Degu, Lu Wuji, Marquis, and the others to form a powerful secret faction that could fight against the great Emperor Dao Court. In this faction, they would be on equal footing and would not have to risk their lives for each other. They would help each other if they could, but they could not hide any information. Bai Hao Yisan was shocked and said in astonishment, "Emperor Zhao, Gu Tianxia, Lu Wuji, Saber Monarch Donghai, Demon Lord Rin, Emperor Hamlin, Emperor Canghai, and Ghost Emperor Zhangtian. Aren't they all dead?" Zhou Xuanji smiled mysteriously. "The world also thinks that the malicious Buddha doesn't exist. Bai Hao Yisin fell silent. After that, the two promised each other the first information mission. Zhou Xuanji would help Bai Hao Yisin keep an eye on Xian Daoya, while he would help Zhou Xuanji investigate the 18 divine swords. After chatting, Zhou Xuanji left. Bai Hao Yisin stood where he was. His expression became calm and was no longer as frivolous as before. His eyes sparkled as he mumbled, "Zhou Xuanji, very good. I hope you won't disappoint me." Today's conversation gave him a deeper understanding of Zhou Xuanji. It was too difficult to think of this guy. On the other side, Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen asked who Bai Hao Yisin was. Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask, or else I will silence you." Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 447. After encountering Bai Hao Yisin, Zhou Xuanji and the other two continued toward the Old Immortal. A month later, they finally arrived at their destination. The three landed and looked toward the direction where they were looking. The undulating mountain range was shrouded in dense fog. From afar, it looked mysterious and beautiful. Xiao Chan said, "Let's walk over quietly. The Old Immortal likes peace and does not like to be disturbed." Zhou Xuanji nodded and followed her with Bai Suwen. Half an hour later, the three of them arrived in front of a Taoist temple. This Taoist temple was not big, with vegetables, flowers, and fruits planted on both sides. A cat as fat as a pig was lying on the ground, napping, and a strange sandalwood fragrance wafted out from the Taoist temple. Xiao Chan walked to the gate and said respectfully, "Old Immortal, I'm back." She had been with the Old Immortal for decades and had always respected him. "Come in." A benevolent and old voice came. Next, the gate of the Taoist temple opened abruptly, which frightened the fat cat. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow slightly. This voice made his heart shudder. He began to look forward to it. It seemed that this Old Immortal had a profound cultivation. After entering the temple, Zhou Xuanji finally saw the Old Immortal. He wore a white robe and looked like an immortal. He sat on a cattail hassock with his eyes closed and a horsetail whisk in his hand. Looking at him, Zhou Xuanji thought of Taichu Yudao somehow. Xiao Chan giggled. "Old Immortal, I brought two friends here. You won't mind, right? I owe him my life." The Old Immortal opened his eyes and smiled. "It's okay. I'm also interested in the Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji, who has shaken the world recently." With this, Zhou Xuanji and Xiao Chan's expressions changed. The Old Immortal glanced at Bai Suwen and said with a smile, "You received the help of the 9 heaven divine snake right after you ascended. My little friend Xuanji, your luck is much higher than those before you." Zhou Xuanji now believed that this Old Immortal was not simple. He might not be any weaker than Han Shuzi. He cupped his fist and asked, "Old Immortal, you know my identity, but do you know my background?" The Old Immortal nodded and said, "The 18 divine swords are not easy to find. Only one has seen the light of day in the Synagogue province. It's controlled by a powerful cultivator who is on par with a malicious Buddha. I advise you to give up." On par with the malicious Buddha? Zhou Xuanji cursed in his heart. Where did so many powerful cultivators come from? The Old Immortal said leisurely, "I understand your predicament. You only need to stay here for 3 years, and this situation will be resolved. From then on, you will be able to fly as high as a bird and roam the world. Although there will not be any danger, at least the demonic emperor and great emperor Dao court will not cause trouble for you." Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen were pleasantly surprised. Zhou Xuanji was quite curious and asked, "Can Old Immortal explain?" If it could really be solved, then there was no need to rush to find the 18 divine swords. The Old Immortal shook his head and said, "The vegetables in the garden are ripe. Help me pick them." With that, he closed his eyes and said no more. Zhou Xuanji frowned, but did not say anything. He turned around and left. Xiao Chan bowed and left the Taoist temple. The doors of the Taoist temple were closed, as if they were rejecting guests. As Zhou Xuanji cut vegetables, he took out the ancient god sword. He pretended that he was cutting vegetables, but he was actually communicating with the 9 souls. "Yo, yo, yo, Brother Zhou is getting worse by the day. Emperor Zhao added insult to injury, which made Zhou Xuanji roll his eyes. He repeated the old immortal's words and wanted to see how the nine souls would guess. Lu Wuji said, "So it's him. Listen to him. No one dares to hurt you here." Emperor Hamlin sighed in amazement. "Your luck. I'm impressed." Zhou Xuanji heard him and quickly asked about the old immortal's identity, but the nine souls did not reply. He could only stay patiently. After he finished harvesting the vegetables, the old immortal asked Xiao Chan to bring him into the temple. He asked Zhou Xuanji to find a place to cultivate and wait for the 3 years to pass. This place was quite peaceful. Although the spiritual qi was not abundant, it was not bad either. It was suitable for cultivation. He focused on Sword Sect, Immortal Ghost Weep. The celestial power of the heavenly law was powerful, but other than using this divine ability, it was difficult for him to activate it directly. It was a strange feeling. He had already grasped the technique, but he could not control it. Time passed quickly. A year later, above the 33rd heaven, the great Emperor's steel trembled, and 2 men in black appeared before it. A name appeared on the 10th place, pushing Zhou Xuanji down to the 13th place. Emperor Jundao. Emperor Jundao. 10th on the great Emperor's steel. How can it be? Another first-class great emperor. How long has it been since Zhou Xuanji appeared? This is too horrifying. What's going on in this era? The 2 men in black cried out in shock. Shortly after, they disappeared before the great Emperor's steel. Within 7 days, Emperor Juandao's name resounded across the world. A genius who was even more overpowered than Zhou Xuanji appeared out of nowhere. At this moment, the entire world was discussing this person. Emperor Jundao? Such a domineering name. Could he have ascended from the mortal realm too? No, he must be a genius nurtured by some overlord-level faction. Yeah, how can there be so many geniuses in the mortal realm? TSK. Now that Zhou Xuanji is nowhere to be found, what will happen to this Emperor Jundao be? Another first-class great emperor. Such a commotion was just like Zhou Xuanji's, but even more so because Zhou Xuanji was ahead of him. Zhou Xuanji flew on his sword and returned to the old immortal's temple. He had been frowning. Every 2 months, he would go to the nearby cities to gather information. Naturally, he knew about Emperor Jundao's situation. He was not jealous of Emperor Jundao, but pondered over the old immortal's words. Could this be the solution he was talking about? Emperor Jundao's ranking was higher than his. How could the great Emperor Dao Court, demonic emperor, and malicious Buddha not pay attention to him? However, the old immortal did not summon him, so he continued to cultivate. If he was too anxious, he would lose face instead. There were still 2 years left of the 3-year deadline, so he continued to wait. Half a year later, Emperor Jundao joined the great Heaven God dynasty and became the emperor's confidant. He was high-spirited and looked down on all the heroes in the world. He did not even take Zhou Xuanji seriously. He claimed that he would surpass his predecessors and help the great Heaven God dynasty become the overlord of the great Thousand World. With this, rumors spread all over the world. Zhou Xuanji also heard about this. He was not angry, but happy. Continue to be arrogant and do not stop. In the next year, just as the world expected, the great Heaven God dynasty was attacked continuously. If not for the emperor's power, Emperor Jundao might have followed in Zhou Xuanji's footsteps. The great Heaven God dynasty had no choice but to be more vigilant, and Emperor Jundao also began to cultivate in seclusion. What's worth mentioning is that the attacks of the demon race are getting stronger and stronger. The sovereign demon sect is starting to feel like they can't hold on anymore. Not only that, the demon race in the north is also getting restless. There is still half a year before the 3 years that the old immortal had mentioned. Zhou Xuanji felt that it was not enough. Monarch Jundao alone was not enough to resolve his crisis. Emperor Jundao? This kid is so arrogant. It seems like he has been spoiled. His master must have a profound background. Emperor Zhao muttered in Zhou Xuanji's mind. The other great being's souls also guessed the same. If he came from the mortal realm and experienced countless hardships, How could he dare to be so arrogant? Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 448. Emperor Zhao, have you thought a way to revive yourself? Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart as he looked at the fat cat not far away. This guy was lying on his back, basking in the sun. His bulging belly was exposed like a ball, making him want to step on it. Emperor Zhao said disappointedly, "How can I? Sai, I'm too young. I never thought that I would die. If he were to be revived, he would surely be more arrogant than Emperor Jundao." Zhou Xuanji nodded and did not speak further. He continued to sense the heavenly law's celestial power. A few days ago, he reached 105 years old. 2.5 years passed. He obtained 6 legendary swords. They were the Evil Trust Sword, Saint Thief Sword, White Wall Sword, Phoenix Arching Sword, Shao Xian Sword, and Thorny Fish Sword. The highest was Heavenly Soul, which was not of much help to him. He had a deeper understanding of the heavenly law's celestial power, but he could not refine it as he pleased. As for cultivation, he fell behind. No matter how talented he was, it was too difficult to break through to void extreme immortal through cultivation. Without any special serendipity, you might need to cultivate for thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years to succeed. Which void extreme immortal in the great thousand world was not tens of thousands of years old. The Hegemon Sword Emperor was close to 20,000 years old. He only broke through early because of special serendipity and made a name for himself in the Center God province. Half a year later, if what the old immortal said was true, then he would need to search for the 18 divine swords and Xian Xianghua. Xiao Chan walked over quickly with a Ganoderma in her hand. This Ganoderma should have been nurtured for 10,000 years. It's filled with spiritual qi. Take it. She looked proud, as though she was asking him to praise her. Zhou Xuanji nodded slightly before taking the Ganoderma and examining it carefully. Xiao Chan did not receive any compliments, so she curled her lip and left with a low snort. When she passed by the fat cat, she kicked its stomach. Meow. The fat cat cried out miserably and ran into the forest, twisting its butt. Zhou Xuanji laughed and stored the Ganoderma into the supreme storage before continuing to cultivate. 3 months later, a majestic voice resounded across the Center God province. The Center God province is the center of the great thousand world. Order is in chaos, and evil demons roam freely. I decided to lead the immortal gods to regain order in the Center God province. Evil demons shall not disturb us. 100 years later, I will open a preaching hall in the 9th heaven. All living beings in the world can come and listen to my teachings. Boom! The Center God province was in an uproar as countless exclamations sounded. Zhou Xuanji, who was cultivating, opened his eyes, and a brilliant light flashed in his eyes. Here it comes. Was this the opportunity that old immortal had mentioned? That person was from the ancient immortal clan? He even had to preach the Tao. Zhou Xuanji immediately took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls. The ancient celestial races also have heavenly saints? It shouldn't be. F*CK, brat, your luck is too heaven-defying. You actually encountered the arrival of an almighty being. Since he dares to call himself a saint, he must be a heavenly saint. He even subdued an ancient celestial race. This is incredible. Malicious Buddha and Xiandoya will not dare to enter the Center God province again. What realm is heavenly sage? Interesting. I didn't expect the heavenly saints to really exist. Heavenly saint. Zhou Xuanji felt quite curious and asked Sovereign Xian what a heavenly saint was. However, Sovereign Xian refused to tell him and said that if he leaked information about a heavenly saint, he would be punished by the heavens. After chatting with the 9 souls for a while, he could no longer sit still. He stood up and walked to the front of the Taoist temple. He respectfully asked, "Senior, is this the opportunity you mentioned to break out of this situation?" He suddenly felt as though the clouds had parted and he could see the sun again. It felt so good. The 3-year deadline is not up yet. The demons might be hoping for luck. Let's wait a little longer. The old immortal's voice came from the temple. It was very calm, and no one could tell from his emotions. Zhou Xuanji understood this. How did you know that the heavenly saint was coming? He asked curiously. The old immortal could divine this. Could he be a heavenly saint too? Zhou Xuanji was filled with respect at the thought of this. You know about the heavenly saint. It seems like your sword is not simple indeed. The old immortal said with a faint smile, which made Zhou Xuanji sweat profusely. Since the old immortal was unwilling to speak, Zhou Xuanji did not dare to disturb him. He returned to his original spot and continued to comprehend the heavenly law's celestial power. At this moment, the old immortal appeared behind him suddenly. Looking at the sky, he said softly, "Look at how vast this world is. An immortal lives in the sky. What does that mean?" Zhou Xuanji was shocked. He instinctively wanted to stand up, but a formless force pressed down on him and prevented him from doing so. He calmed himself down and began to ponder about the old immortal's words. The old immortal was definitely not chatting casually. There must be a deeper meaning. Immortals live in the sky. His pupils shrank and his breathing quickened as he asked, "You mean the heavenly law's immortal force needs to be extracted from the sky?" The old immortal lowered his head and smiled amiably at him. "Not only are you talented, but you are also open-minded. Not bad. Being able to comprehend the heavenly law's immortal energy at the Revolution Golden immortal realm. Since ancient times, there have not been many people with such talent. You must have learned some kind of divine art. I won't ask who taught it to you, but I hope that you will remember this. The heavenly law's immortal energy is still the heavenly law's immortal energy. Don't be greedy, or you will dig your own grave." After that, he turned around and walked into the forest. As he walked, he shook his head and said, "Heaven doesn't see the birth of all living things. My Tao came from the heavens. If we were to talk about who is the leader since ancient times, the heavenly saints, Buddhas, and demons are all conceded." Zhou Xuanji remembered this sentence and leaped up into the clouds. He sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend the heavenly law's celestial power. After a while, strands of heavenly law celestial energy descended from the sky and poured into his body, causing him to be wild with joy. He tried to continue flying, and he discovered that the higher he flew, the more heavenly law immortal power he sensed. Soon, an invisible barrier blocked his path. He looked up. The sky was still too high to reach, but he could not go any higher. 3 heavens, 33 heavens. Each heaven had a heavenly law restriction. With Zhou Xuanji's power, he could break through the first heaven. But after some thought, he decided to give up. The 3-month deadline was not over yet. He could not be reckless. He began to extract heavenly law, celestial power. His goal was to change the magic energy in the Tianxiao map into heavenly law, celestial power. Heavenly law, celestial power was more powerful than the power of the world. If he could use heavenly law, celestial power as his normal battle power, his power would be explosive. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. In the dim world, lightning flashed and thunder roared. A lone peak stood in the middle of a massive lake, and the surrounding lake water surged like raging waves. A group of bloodbats flew over and landed on the peak. There was a stone palace here, and an old tree stood in front of it, enduring the wind and rain. Xiao Hongjun walked up to the door of the stone palace and shouted, "Wu Wang, get out here now. The heavenly saint is here, and you still want to wait for your death?" Wu Wang, the peerless demon emperor from the northern wilderness region 110,000 years ago. He almost led the demon race to rule over the northern wilderness region. "You can leave by yourself. I have my own ways." Great Emperor Wu Wang's indifferent voice came, which infuriated Xiao Hongjun. She came to visit him out of goodwill, but he did not even open the door. She gritted her teeth and said, "The violet demon monarch's heart that you left in the mortal realm has been taken away by someone. It might be Zhou Xuanji. Let's go and take revenge." In the northern wilderness region, there are only a handful of people who had the ability to take the violet demon monarch's heart. The most likely one was Zhou Xuanji. Calm, wonderful book house. Chapter 449. Knowing that the violet demon monarch's heart had been snatched away, Great Emperor Wuwang did not get angry. Instead, he remained silent. Xiao Hongjun could not take it anymore and said angrily, "Do you despise me that much? Come out and meet me. Do you want to die?" Emperor Wuwang remained silent. Xiao Hongjun was so angry that she swung her palm at the door of the stone hall. The door shook violently, but she could not break it open. After venting for a while, Xiao Hongjun left angrily. After a long while, Emperor Wuwang's voice floated out. "It looks like I really should leave. What a pity that I can't participate in such an exciting era." 3 years had finally passed. Zhou Xuanji absorbed a lot of heavenly law celestial power, and his power grew tremendously. He came before the Taoist temple and asked, "Senior, is the Center God province safer than before? Will the great Emperor Tao, court, and demonic emperor come back?" The old immortal's voice sounded, "If you can break through the barrier with the northern wilderness region, then go ahead and do it. Next will be the era of hundreds of clans competing. It's a rare opportunity to become a saint, so make good use of it." Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and bowed toward the Taoist temple. In a sense, this old immortal could be considered half a master to him. He called by Suwen and prepared to leave. Xiao Chan followed up and shouted, "Don't think of leaving me behind." Now, she had changed into a clean white dress. Although she was not devastatingly beautiful, her appearance could be considered pretty, especially her temperament, which was youthful and lively like a child. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Isn't it better to stay here? It's dangerous to follow me." Xiao Chan curled her lips and said, "I want to. Old immortal chased me away 30 years ago. If it wasn't for you, how would I have the face to come back?" Zhou Xuanji heard him and could only give up. In the future, she would be a maidservant. Next, Zhou Xuanji prepared to find the divine cliff and help it recover. He then found a mountain to establish Emperor Sword Court's base in the Great Thousand World. It was not difficult to find a Dharma formation that connected to the mortal world. There was definitely one in the divine cliff. Now that the heavenly sage was in control of the Tao, it was time for the Emperor's Sword Court to ascend. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt that he was no longer important. If he had come 10 years later, would the heavenly saint have come on time? Would the divine cliff be able to escape this calamity? He shook his head. Everything had its own destiny. There were no ifs. From then on, he would see himself as a member of the divine cliff. As he strengthened the Emperor's Sword Court, he would also support the divine cliff. All the way forward, Zhou Xuanji stopped occasionally to inquire about the whereabouts of the 18 divine swords. Unfortunately, to most living beings in the vast thousand world, the 18 holy swords were just a fictional legend. Several years passed. Divine Cliff City had been rebuilt, but the surrounding mist had dissipated a lot. There were not many disciples on the streets, and the whole city was filled with a deathly aura. Inside the Cliff Master Hall, Yang Yuqian and 2 elders were discussing sect matters. "Another mortal realm has been seized." Yang Yuqian gritted his teeth and asked with an ugly expression. This was already the 6th mortal realm that had been seized. All the cultivators from the Divine Cliff who were stationed there had either been killed or chased away. At that very moment, the Divine Cliff was like a tiger that had fallen to the plains and was being bullied by dogs. A white-haired elder nodded and sighed. There are less than 10 true gods in the Divine Cliff, and less than 30 void extreme immortals. Each of them is guarding an area, and none of them can come back to support us. The other elder's expression was also ugly. Back then, the 36 envoys had all died in battle. Among the direct disciples, only Yang Yutian had survived. More than half of the core disciples had died, and the rest had been sent to various garrisons in the 2 realms. The 3 of them fell into silence, feeling the pressure. They did not want the Divine Cliff to perish in their hands. At this moment, a disciple shouted from outside the gate, "Cliff Master, core disciple Zhou Xuanji is back." With this, Yang Yutian and the others were pleasantly surprised. Yang Yutian immediately cried out, "Invite him in." The 2 elders chatted excitedly. "Zhou Xuanji is back. The Divine Cliff has not lost yet. He's a first-class great emperor." Now that the immortal gods are ruling the world, the divine cliff's opportunity is here. Yang Yutian was also excited, but he tried his best to remain calm. The divine cliff was in such dire straits because of Zhou Xuanji. After Zhou Xuanji disappeared, he almost broke down. Fortunately, this brat came back. Soon, the gate opened. Zhou Xuanji walked in with Xiao Chan, and Bai Suwen was in his arms. Seeing that he came back unscathed, Yang Yutian and the others were completely relieved. Zhou Xuanji spoke first. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. From today onwards, I will do my best to protect the divine cliff." These words almost made Yang Yutian and the others cry. Yang Yutian walked up quickly and grabbed his hands. "It's good that you are back. It's good that you are back," he said with a trembling voice. The divine cliff was in such dire straits, but Zhou Xuanji was still able to come back. He could not help but feel touched. He suddenly understood Han Shuzi's intention. His revered teacher was really good at judging people. Zhou Xuanji said, "I'm already a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal and can be considered a Void Extreme Immortal. Tell me, who was the one who bullied the divine cliff recently? As long as it's not a true god, I will kill him." Yang Yutian frowned and said, "Cultivate well. If there's anything you need, we will help you. The divine cliff needs your help, but not now." Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "If we don't act now, the divine cliff will only be bullied more and more. Since the calamity has only passed for a few years, we must show our might." All the demons were chased out of the Center God province. Under such circumstances, we should be like our predecessors and show our might. The all-evil yin-yang destruction and the holy light divine shadow sword appeared behind him at the same time, spinning in the air. Two extremely powerful auras exploded out, shaking the Cliff Lord Palace violently. All the disciples in the divine Cliff City felt their hearts tremble. Yang Yutian and the others opened their eyes wide and looked at the two Armageddon legendary swords in disbelief. Such a powerful divine weapon. "Okay, Elder Yuchuan, bring him to the teleportation point of the Wangwei realm. If a true god attacks, I will do it myself." Yang Yutian instructed with a deep voice, and an elder beside him agreed immediately. Zhou Xuanji pointed at Xiao Chan and said, "She's my maidservant. She saved my life before. Arrange for her to stay in my residence." After that, he handed Bai Suwen to Xiao Chan before leaving with Elder Yuchuan. Looking at his back, Yang Yutian clenched his fists and his blood boiled. "Revered teacher, the divine cliff will not fall because of this. We will surely soar," he mumbled to himself before arranging a place for Xiao Chan to stay. To the north of the divine cliff, above the boundless fog and layers of clouds, hundreds of powerful cultivators sat in the air, surrounding a long bridge. There was a teleportation gate on the bridge, which was guarded by two Void Extreme Immortals. They were chatting and laughing. "The divine cliff has really fallen. Our sect doesn't even need to send out true gods, and they still don't dare to act. Of course, although Yang Yutian is powerful, he belongs to the younger generation after all. If he were to act against us, the other sects and clans would take the opportunity to act. He has no choice but to compromise." At this moment, more than 10 top-tier factions were watching the divine cliff. Each faction had a true god. They were waiting for Yang Yutian to come alone and kill him. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 450. The faction that occupied the Wangwei realm was called the Eight Fist Sect, and it had a few true gods. Before, they were so insignificant before the divine cliff. But now, they worked together with other factions and treated the divine cliff as their prey. The two Void Extreme Immortals and hundreds of Golden Immortals dared to occupy this place. This showed how much they despised the divine cliff. They were not afraid of Yang Yutian because many powerful cultivators were waiting in the dark. The divine cliff was like a huge cake. First come, first served. Humph! A cold snort came. Zhou Xuanji came over on a river of swords with the all-evil yin-yang destruction in his right hand and the holy light divine shadow sword in his left. His black robe danced in the wind, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Elder Yuchuan was beside him and looked excited. I can finally fight back. Seeing Zhou Xuanji, all the 8-fist sect cultivators got up and prepared for battle. The two Void Extreme Immortals smiled in disdain. Zhou Xuanji said coldly, "All of you come here and die. Don't touch the portal." With this, the 8-fist sect cultivators took out their enchanted artifacts and looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously. A Void Extreme Immortal laughed in disdain. A 10th Revolution Golden Immortal dares to be so arrogant? Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have a senior beside you? After that, he charged toward Zhou Xuanji first, followed by the other cultivators. Just when Elder Yuchuan was about to attack, Zhou Xuanji activated the world-destroying power of the all-evil yin-yang destruction and slashed with the sky-dominating divine sword soul. Boom! The sword flashed, and everyone closed their eyes instinctively. The Void Extreme Immortal opened his eyes wide and slammed his palm. Shortly after, he and the Golden Immortal behind him were turned into ashes. The clouds were destroyed, and the sword chi swept across and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Silence. Elder Yuchuan was dumbfounded. The surviving cultivators from the 8-fist sect were all stunned. Deathly silence. "Brat, you're seeking death." The other Void Extreme Immortal from the 8-fist sect roared furiously. He disappeared on the spot and wanted to sneak up on Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji stomped his right foot, and 30 legendary swords soared up. They glowed with silver radiance and revolved around him at high speed. Elder Yuchuan sensed an extremely powerful repulsive force coming toward him. He immediately recognized that it was Zhou Xuanji's power. He did not resist and moved a few hundred meters away from Zhou Xuanji. The Void Extreme Immortal suddenly appeared behind Zhou Xuanji with a snake-like black sword in his hand. He was going to kill Zhou Xuanji with one slash. Poochie, 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 silver light flashed, and he was instantly pierced by 30 divine swords. He was like a hedgehog, and blood sprayed across the sky. Zhou Xuanji did not look back, but looked at the cultivators from the 8-fist sect. His gaze scared the cultivators so much that they broke out in cold sweat and retreated one after another. How is this possible? The Void Extreme Immortal of the 8-fist sect was drenched in cold sweat. He had a ferocious look on his face. He wanted to bring down the black sword, but it was a pity that his magic power was being sucked away rapidly. The Heavenly Law's immortal energy was of a higher grade than his magic energy. He was completely defenseless against it. The 30 divine swords moved again and directly minced him into pieces, turning him into a bloody mist. The two Void Extreme Celestials were as weak as mortals in front of him. With the two Armageddon legendary swords and Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep, he could kill enemies of a higher stage. With his cultivation stage, 2 slashes could exhaust the Heavenly Law's immortal energy in his body. But he still had the Tianxia map, which stored abundant Heavenly Law's immortal energy. It was enough for him to fight for a long time. He charged toward the other cultivators from the 8-fist sect and started a massacre. The cultivators were so terrified that they fled in all directions. Elder Yuchuan was stupefied and could not come back to his senses for a long while. Why was a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal so powerful? He could not understand it all. Could this be the heaven-defying power of a first-class great emperor? No wonder those factions were willing to heavily injure the Divine Cliff and Dao Heaven sect just to kill Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji, you still dare to show up? A loud cry came. A 3,000-meter-tall silhouette appeared in the horizon and charged toward Zhou Xuanji swiftly, stirring up clouds and mist. Heavenly Law, true God. The stage above, Void Extreme Immortal. Elder Yuchuan was only a Void Extreme Immortal. If not for the Divine Cliff being heavily injured, he would not have become an Elder. Seeing the true God, his face turned pale with fright. Zhou Xuanji did not panic at all. He activated the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha straight away. Stepping on the Sword Buddha's head, he flew up swiftly. He laughed proudly and said, "A mere true God dares to kill me? Even the malicious Buddha cannot kill me, let alone you. If you dare to attack me, the existence behind me will not let you off. Neither will the malicious Buddha. The malicious Buddha and the demonic emperor still want to use me. Do you have the right to stand against them? The true God was so frightened that he stopped in his tracks. His body was glowing with a radiance, and no one could see his expression clearly. But he had to believe Zhou Xuanji's words. Even Han Shuzi died in the hands of the malicious Buddha. How could Zhou Xuanji survive? Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. If you don't get lost, you and those scoundrels hiding in the dark will all die. He was filled with a murderous aura and released all of his aura, looking fearless. This made the Eight-Fist sect's true God even more uncertain. Zhou Xuanji swung his sword. The sky-dominating divine sword Soul and Sword Chi swept out and clashed with the Eight-Fist sect's true God. The true God exploded instantly without causing any damage. He was shocked in his heart. A heavenly law true God was this powerful? Zhou Xuanji, you win. The Eight-Fist sect's true God snorted coldly and left. As for the other Eight-Fist sect cultivators, they were long gone. The Eight-Fist sect retreated. At the same time, the true gods hiding in the dark were also shocked. It was not that they were not smart enough, but the malicious Buddha's deterrence was too powerful. Even someone as powerful as Han Shuzi was killed. How could they fight against him? Elder Yuchuan came up to Zhou Xuanji excitedly. He wanted to say something, but Zhou Xuanji gave him a look, and he understood immediately. The two returned to the Cliff Lord Palace and told Yang Yuqian about this. Yang Yuqian sighed in amazement. A 10th Revolution Golden Immortal can kill 2 Void Extreme Immortals and hundreds of Heavenly Revolution Golden Immortals so easily. This is too ridiculous. Not only that, but you also know how to bully others. I can sense that those true gods have retreated. I don't think the other factions need us to do anything. They will be scared away. Bully others? Zhou Xuanji was speechless. How could he say that? Next, Yang Yuqian began gathering the core disciples to conquer the portals to the mortal realm. Zhou Xuanji told him about the northern wilderness region, and Yang Yuqian readily agreed. Emperor Sword Court was merely a faction in the northern wilderness region, and it was not a big deal for them to merge with the Divine Cliff. However, the Divine Cliff had been attacked, so they needed to create a new teleportation gate and buy world stones, which would take some time. Zhou Xuanji also asked Yang Yuqian about the 18 divine swords and Xian Xianghua, and Yang Yuqian readily agreed. That day, news of Zhou Xuanji's return spread throughout the Divine Cliff City. At first, the disciples were quite furious, but after hearing that Zhou Xuanji had repelled the various factions, their anger dissipated. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji sensed many hostile gazes. He was not angry. If it were him, he would feel displeased as well. Under Elder Yuquan's lead, he returned to his original residence, which had yet to be destroyed. Fei Hai stood in front of the gate excitedly. When he saw Zhou Xuanji, he cried tears of joy and said with a trembling voice, "Senior, it's great that you are all right. You're finally back." Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 451. Seeing that Fei Hai was safe and sound, Zhou Xuanji was not pleasantly surprised but felt a little amazed. Several years had passed, and the people had changed. He then thought of Han Shuzi and Shi Shinzong. He nodded and said, "Get up. The Divine Cliff is in trouble. You don't have to serve me anymore. Cultivate well and become the backbone of the Divine Cliff." Fei Hai shook his head and said, "I can still serve you, and I will not delay my cultivation." Zhou Xuanji did not insist and walked into the residence. The servants in the mansion were still there. It was still the same people. Zhou Xuanji packed up and flew into the sky to continue extracting heavenly law, celestial power. When he attacked the true God just now, he didn't manage to inflict any damage to the other party, causing him to feel a sense of crisis once more. He needed to accumulate more heavenly law immortal energy. In the next half a year, Zhou Xuanji did not leave the Divine Cliff City, and news of him returning to the Divine Cliff quickly spread. The demons were chased out, and Emperor Jundao was once again active in the eyes of the world. Now, Zhou Xuanji had also returned. Would the two newly advanced first-grade great sovereigns fight? In half a year, the Divine Cliff did not encounter any more attacks. Yang Yutian continued to recruit disciples. Analyze that the sword owner has reached 106 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, sword owner. You have obtained Intimidating Spirit, Bitter Sword, 9 Suns Spirit Source Crown. Zhou Xuanji, who was high up in the sky, was attracted by the sword spirit's voice. He opened his eyes, and a legendary sword's information appeared before him. Sword name, Kuti Sword Grade. Intimidating Spirit description, a wooden sword that contains Bodhi materials. Anyone struck by this sword will suffer the pain of being stabbed by thousands of blades and being devoured by hundreds of beasts. Not bad. Zhou Xuanji smiled and took out the 9 Suns Spirit Source Crown. The crown was golden in color and was 10 centimeters tall. 9 golden dragons were engraved on its surface, and they were very small. There were 3 golden needles attached to it, which could be used to tie one's hair. 9 Sun Spirit Source Crown. Not only can it increase the speed at which the host refines his magic power, it can also absorb the power of the sun. When it encounters a fatal attack, it will automatically counterattack the enemy. The sword spirit introduced, and Zhou Xuanji immediately put it on. After wearing the crown, his entire temperament suddenly changed, becoming even more divine and handsome. He continued to refine the heavenly law of mortal energy and found that the rate at which he could refine it had indeed increased by a lot. Not bad. Zhou Xuanji's mood became joyful. At this moment, Yang Yutian transmitted a message to him, telling him to head to the Cliff Master Hall. He quickly arrived at the entrance of the Cliff Master Hall and strolled in. Apart from Yang Yutian, his previous direct disciples Wu Qiu and Lan Shangying were also present. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "You're still alive?" He thought the two of them were already dead. Hearing this, Lan Shangying coldly harumphed, while Wu Qiu enthusiastically waved at him and revealed a bright smile. Yang Yutian laughed loudly and then closed the door. "I called you here because I have the whereabouts of the divine sword. The location is a little far, so I want junior brother and junior sister to accompany you. I have to watch over the divine cliff. I hope you can understand." Yang Yutian said. Zhou Xuanji heard him and his eyes brightened. He said, "I can go alone. Leave them here to guard the divine cliff." Lan Shangying curled her lips and said, "Are you afraid that we will snatch them from you?" Wu Qiu shook his head and said with a smile, "That place is an ancient site that the two of us discovered in the past. There are many restrictions inside, and many of our disciples died there. If we bring you there, it will save you a lot of trouble. Besides, don't you need someone to keep watch when you're retrieving the sacred sword?" Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "Then I will trouble the two of you. But since you have been there before, why didn't you find the sacred sword? Could it be that something had happened?" Wu Qiu stopped smiling and said, "That ancient site is at the western end of the Center God Province. 3 months ago, my informant there sent me a message saying that the Heavenly Hall and the Buddha Ghost sect discovered the ancient site. It was said that they forced the birth of a powerful sword. Even a 9th Revolution Golden Immortal could not control this sword. I guess that the sword might be the divine sword. Now that the immortal gods control the Center God Province, evil cultivators are no longer around. Why don't we go and take a look?" Zhou Xuanji was a little disappointed, so it was not accurate information. "Wait, the Buddha Ghost sect is not an evil cultivator?" he asked curiously. Yang Yutian replied, "Although they are ghost cultivators, the Buddha Ghost Emperor made great contributions to protect his descendants. The heavenly law recognizes them, and the immortal gods do not reject them." After that, the 4 of them discussed and decided to depart today. Zhou Xuanji, Wu Qiu, and Lan Shangying went back to make some arrangements before leaving the divine cliff together. Bai Suin and Xiao Chan wanted to follow, but were rejected by Zhou Xuanji. This was a risky trip, and he did not want to bring along 2 burdens. Lan Shangying flew on a cloud, while Zhou Xuanji sat on the cloud and continued to extract heavenly law celestial power. Wu Qiu cultivated as well. Because he was close, he could sense the powerful ripples of heavenly law celestial power. He opened his eyes and asked in astonishment, "There's something wrong with your magic energy. Why does it feel like an immortal god?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and asked, "You've seen an immortal god before?" Wu Qiu nodded and began to tell him about his past. Back then, he was only a ninth tribulation scattered immortal. When he was traveling in the Center God province, he encountered an injured immortal. After saving the immortal, they became friends and spent some time together. He was very familiar with heavenly law, celestial power. After that, they parted ways. Until today, Wu Qiu did not know where that immortal was, nor did he know why he was injured. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself and said, "That heavenly saint brought an immortal god to control the Center God province. What's his intention? Could it be related to your immortal friend's injury?" In the Center God province, immortal gods were still an illusory legend. Zhou Xuanji knew that the immortal gods came from the ancient immortal clans. This time, it was all thanks to the heavenly saint and the ancient immortal clans that he was able to escape. However, he always felt that there was a massive conspiracy behind this. If the immortal gods were so kind, they would have appeared long ago. Wu Qiu did not reply. He was also thinking about this. Ever since he witnessed the malicious Buddha's prowess, he had a strong desire for power. This time, he not only wanted to help Zhou Xuanji obtain the divine sword, but also to obtain a serendipity for himself. Under the dark clouds, the entire mountain was filled with graves. There were countless of them. Behind a tombstone, a hand suddenly reached out from the soil. It was as dry as firewood and looked eerie. The soil opened up, and a skinny man climbed up. His clothes were corroded, and only strips of cloth were left. His hair was dry, and his eyes were lifeless. He rolled down from the soil and lay on the ground, panting heavily. He glanced over and saw the words on the tombstone. "My brother, Mo." The last 4 words were corroded by the wind and sand, but the 3 words at the bottom were still recognizable. Established by Emperor Xia. The skinny man stood up with difficulty and looked up at the dark clouds in the sky, trembling. Suddenly, he burst out laughing like a madman. "Ha ha, I'm alive again. All of you, wait for your deaths. I'm going to regain control of the Center God province. I'm the true sovereign." He laughed wildly. Strands of black qi floated out from the other tombstones and gathered on his body. His body grew fuller at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 452. The historical site that Wu Qiu was talking about was called the Nether Demon Stream. It was said that a long time ago, the demon race had once occupied the Center God province. The Nether Demon Stream was one of the demon race's territories, but it was destroyed by a powerhouse. It took a long time to travel from the Divine Cliff to the Nether Demon Stream. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji and the others did not encounter any danger. After the heavenly saints spoke, the demons all disappeared. The only strange thing was that the heavenly saints and immortal gods had not appeared yet. If not for the fact that some demon factions had been razed to the ground, the world would have thought that the immortal gods were joking. Zhou Xuanji asked Wu Qiu to help him find out where Xian Xianghua was, and Wu Qiu asked about her. Demonic cultivator? She might have already left the Center God province, Wu Qiu said with a frown. Wu Qiu frowned, which made Zhou Xuanji's heart sink. Lan Shangying said, "There are no more demonic cultivators in the Center God province." Zhou Xuanji frowned and thought to himself. He was not too worried. Xian Xianghua had lived for over 10,000 years after all, and she was proficient in the celestial devil rebirth technique. She should be able to protect herself. Half a month later, the 3 of them were less than 10,000 kilometers away from the Nether Demon Stream. Lan Shangying stopped and landed on top of a mountain. Wu Qiu moved his hands, and golden mirrors of light flew out from his sleeves and hovered in front of them. The mirrors reflected the scene of the Nether Demon Stream from a different perspective. The surrounding 10,000 kilometers was a boundless mountain forest. Mountain ranges rose and fell, and the nether demon stream was like a black line that divided the land into two. It was so deep that they could not see the bottom. They saw many cultivators moving about, and some even flew into the nether demon stream. There were also people fighting. Wu Qiu coldly laughed and said, "It's so lively." Zhou Xuanji asked, "Are there any true gods here?" Wu Qiu shook his head and said, "The demonic factions in the Center God Province have all retreated. The true gods of the various factions are busy fighting for territory. How can I have the time to come to the nether demon stream?" Zhou Xuanji heard him and felt that it made sense. The serendipity in the nether demon stream was not worth mentioning to true gods. As for that saint sword, he had not verified whether it was real or not. Since there are no true gods, should we act directly? Zhou Xuanji asked. He could already rival Void Extreme Immortals, and Lan Xiangying and Wu Qiu were both Void Extreme Immortals. With the three of them working together, there was naturally nothing to fear. Wu Qiu raised his hand and said, "Don't be anxious. I think I saw someone from the Tang King clan." Tang King clan. After the northern wilderness region's war god Xiling ascended, he was recognized by the Tang King clan. He even married the Tang King clan's young mistress and married into the Tang King clan. To this day, war god Xiling was still an extremely powerful existence in the Center God Province. He had become a true god long ago and was the pillar of the Tang King clan. Zhou Xuanji had a deep impression of war god Xiling. Back at Juadi Cliff, he had been killed by war god Xiling's heavenly law puppet. For what he sensed, war god Xiling was not inferior to Lu Wuji at all. Lan Xiangying frowned and said, "The Tang King clan is tyrannical. It is not good to offend them. If the Tang King clan's disciples suffered a loss, the clan's powerhouses would stand up for them. Even the Divine Cliff at its peak would not dare to provoke the Tang King clan." Zhou Xuanji suddenly looked at a golden mirror of light. In the image, a group of heavenly guards were discussing something by the cliff, and he saw Emperor Yin of Zhou. Emperor Yin of Zhou was silent in the group, and he stood at the back. After ascending from the Mahayana realm and joining the heavenly palace, one could only start from the lowest rank of soldiers. Zhou Xuanji only took a glance and did not pay much attention to it. The fate between the two of them had come to an end. By helping the great Zhou Empire become stronger, he had already done enough for Emperor Yin of Zhou. After that, the three of them decided to enter the nether demon stream from a place where there was no one around. The walls of the nether demon stream were slippery, and it was unknown where the water was coming from. As he flew down, he could feel a gust of cold wind blowing at him. The whistling sound of the wind sounded like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. Wu Qiu transmitted his voice, "Do your best to hide your aura. Do not make a move before we find the holy sword." No one knew exactly how many people were in the nether demon stream, so they had to be cautious. Zhou Xuanji was not too worried. The Tianxia map had already stored a massive amount of heavenly law, celestial power. Even if he had to fight against many, he was not afraid. The nether demon stream was not as deep as he had imagined it to be, only about 4,000 zhang deep. The mountain walls were filled with all kinds of crystal stones that gave off a faint glow, allowing them to see the path within 100 meters. They walked in a certain direction, using their inner sight to scan their surroundings. Along the way, they saw many corpses. Most of them had fallen to their deaths. There were even cultivators who had died not too long ago. Zhou Xuanji took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls in his mind. Nether Demon Stream. What a nostalgic place. Back then, I also came here before. Me too. You're all so young. I remember that the Nether Demon Stream was created by a junior from the demon race. We're all remnant souls. Don't act cool. There are holy swords here? It's possible that the 18 holy swords have disappeared for countless years, so they might have fallen in a place like this. The 9 souls started to bicker. Some of them had been here before, which made things much more convenient for Zhou Xuanji. Wu Qiu and Lan Xiangying continuously avoided the restrictions, and Zhou Xuanji would occasionally warn them, making them feel quite shocked. You've been here before? Wu Qiu could not help but but ask. Zhou Xuanji could find restrictions that they did not know about. This was quite embarrassing. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, I just have good eyesight. These words made Wu Qiu feel even more depressed. Soon, they encountered a group of cultivators. They immediately hid behind a massive boulder, concealing themselves, and their auras almost disappeared. The Tang King clan is too domineering. Despicable. Is that sword really a holy sword? It feels so strange. The Tang King clan's Tang Juetian has come. Let's leave. Tang Juetian is a second-class great emperor, and now that he is a Void Extreme Immortal, his strength is enough to sweep across the Void Extreme Immortal realm. All of us together are not a match for him. Hearing the cultivators' discussions, Wu Qiu and Lan Shangying's expressions slightly changed. After the group of cultivators flew away, Wu Qiu gritted his teeth and said, Tang Juetian has also come. This is not good news. Tang Juetian is one of the top geniuses in the Tang King clan. Even if all of us combined, we are not a match for him. Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows and asked, Aren't you all geniuses of the Divine Cliff as well? Why are you so lacking in confidence? Wu Qiu rolled his eyes at him. Lan Shangying explained, Tang Juetian has a great Emperor Divine weapon and is extremely powerful. In the Great Thousand World, enchanted artifacts and magic treasures were not divided into many grades, but great Emperor Divine weapons reigned above most enchanted artifacts and magic treasures. Great Emperor Divine weapons were forged by heavenly law great emperors using great emperor fate. Once they were formed, they would be incredibly powerful and contain emperor's might. Zhou Xuanji's eyes narrowed as he said, I'll go and meet him. He now had 2 Armageddon grade swords. He wanted to see which one was stronger compared to the great Emperor Divine weapon. After saying this, he prepared to rush out. Wu Qiu held him back and said in a low voice, Right now, the Divine Cliff is not on the same level as the Tang King clan at all. We can't fight them head-on. We need a plan to steal the Saint's sword without anyone knowing. Zhou Xuanji frowned. The strength of their faction was a big problem. He did not want to make more trouble for the Divine Cliff. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 453. In the depths of the Nether Demon Stream, there was a large door at the bottom of a mountain. Even though it was incredibly damaged, the palace inside still existed. The palace was very big and was guarded by 30 Tang King clan disciples. Tang Juetian was standing in front of a stone coffin. He wore a large blue robe and had a cold expression. His gaze was sharp, and he looked like a spear giving off a powerful aura. Following his gaze, there was a stone sword within the coffin. This stone sword was 1 meter long and 10 or so centimeters wide, and it was elongated like a gourd. There was an eyeball between the hilt and the blade, which looked like a human eye. It was still spinning, as if it was looking around, looking incredibly shocking. Tang Juetian muttered, Is it really a saint's sword? A voice sounded in his heart, tempting him to grab the sword, but his heart was as firm as a boulder and did not move. At that moment, a disciple walked 10 steps away and cupped his fists as he called out, Young master, the great heaven god dynasty's Liu Tingjun is here. Liu Tingjun. Before Emperor Jundao appeared, he was the #1 genius of the great heaven god dynasty. He had reached Void Extreme Immortal at 8,000 years old, and he was now over 10,000 years old. Tang Juetian's eyes narrowed as he said, Who would have thought that he would also come? That's good. We haven't decided a victor in our battle last time. He turned and walked towards the door as he said, No one gets close to the stone coffin. That sword is an evil sword and can bewitch people's hearts. If anyone grabs it, their soul will be devoured. Hearing this, the 30 Tang King clan disciples were given a big fright. They were all from the same clan, and they believed that Tang Juetian would not lie to them. After all, Tang Juetian had not touched that sword at all. Soon, Tang Juetian left. Not long after he left, Zhou Xuanji and the others came over. Zhou Xuanji and the other 2 came over and looked into the distance. They could see that there were cultivators guarding the door. Wu Qiu said, Lan Shangying, You go and draw away a wave of enemies. I'll act and draw away another wave. After that, Brother Xuanji can go and take the sword." Lan Shangyin nodded and did not say anything as he quickly raised his sword and rushed out. These Tang King clan disciples were only golden immortals. Even though the weakest was at least 7th revolution, how could they be a match for Lan Shangyin? Lan Shangyin quickly grabbed a female disciple and said with a sneer, "Tang King clan is only a so. With that, she snatched the female disciple away. Immediately, 8 male disciples roared and chased after her. "Stop! Release my cousin! Where did this demoness come from? Does she want to offend the Tang King clan? Damn it!" The light underground was dim, and they couldn't see Lan Shangying's face clearly. After they left, Wu Qiu charged out and used the same method to attract the 7 disciples. There were only 13 disciples left in the palace. Zhou Xuanji put on his iron mask and charged forward with a soft velvety sword. He first absorbed all of the disciples' magic power, then stabbed them with his sword, causing them to fall to the ground powerlessly. In order to avoid falling out with the Tang King clan, he didn't take their lives. The Tang King clan was considered to be on a righteous path, but in the future, if they were to argue, their skills would be inferior and they would not have the face to speak. Soon, the 13 Tang King clan disciples powerlessly fell to the ground, looking at Zhou Xuanji furiously. They didn't even have the strength to speak. Zhou Xuanji came up to the stone coffin and glanced at the stone sword. "This is the holy sword? Why is it so strange?" Zhou Xuanji looked at the eye on the stone sword in confusion. He did not immediately stretch out his hand and instead started to converse with the 9 souls. Lu Wuji said in a low voice, "It shouldn't be a holy sword. I can sense soul ripples from within the sword. Oh, could it be that there was an old demon hiding in the sword that pretended to be a holy sword to take over?" Zhou Xuanji raised the ancient god sword and slashed out. Clang! The stone sword shattered, and the eye's pupils constricted. It no longer spun around and even lost its expression. Zhou Xuanji's expression was calm, but the 9 souls exploded. Emperor Zhao cried out in shock, "My big brother, you killed it just like that? You haven't investigated it clearly yet." The other souls could not understand either. They had come from so far away. Even if it wasn't a holy sword, it was still a gain. Zhou Xuanji said casually, "Apart from holy swords, I don't need any other swords." He now had close to 200 swords and did not need to worry about swords. After the stone sword shattered, there were no abnormal signs. Everything seemed incredibly calm. Zhou Xuanji stared at the eye and thought to himself. He suddenly stretched out his hand and used heavenly law immortal energy to dig out the eye from the air. He directly put the eye into the supreme storage. He had asked the sword spirit before, and if evil things entered the supreme storage, they would be suppressed. Of course, the supreme storage would reject living things. This eye was not alive. After doing all of this, Zhou Xuanji quickly left. He quickly found Wu Qiu and Lan Shangyin. The 2 of them let go of the Tang King clan disciples, and the 3 of them quickly disappeared into the darkness. The Tang King clan disciples understood that this was a ploy to lure them away, so they did not give chase and returned to the palace. When they saw the stone sword shatter, they were all dumbfounded. Zhou Xuanji and the others landed behind a massive boulder. Wu Qiu asked about the situation, and Zhou Xuanji answered truthfully. After hearing that he had destroyed the stone sword with a single strike, Wu Qiu said in pity, "Looks like it's not a holy sword. How could a true holy sword be so weak?" Lan Shangyin nodded. They had come here for nothing. They started to plan their return. Zhou Xuanji said, "I want to challenge Tang Juetian. We'll only fight to determine victory and defeat, not to kill him. That shouldn't give the Tang King clan an excuse to attack, right?" Wu Qiu's eyes widened as he said, "Are you crazy?" Tang Juetian, who had a great Emperor Divine weapon, was someone that even he could not deal with. Did Zhou Xuanji really want to lose? Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "If the Divine Cliff wants to rise up, it needs fame. If I defeat Tang Juetian, Will more people want to join the divine cliff? Lan Shangyin rolled her eyes at him and asked, "What if you lose?" Zhou Xuanji said confidently, "I won't lose." He wanted to test his true strength. Wu Qiu and Lan Shangyin could not dissuade him, so they could only allow him to challenge Tang Juetian. The two of them did not follow, in case they were recognized by the Tang King clan disciples. Zhou Xuanji took out legendary swords, which formed a river of swords. He stepped on the river and rose into the air, looking incredibly domineering. Seeing this, Wu Qiu and Lan Shangyin looked at each other and could see the shock in each other's eyes. What a powerful aura! On the ground, Tang Juetian was currently fighting with the great heaven god dynasty's Lu Tingjun. The two of them had powerful auras and were incredibly fast. They were like two rays of light madly clashing in the air, causing powerful gales to blow up the trees in the surrounding 1,000 kilometers. Many cultivators watched from afar. So powerful. Both of them are second-class great emperors. It's said that they fought before, but there was no clear victor. Ever since Emperor Jundao joined the great heaven god dynasty, Lu Tingjun has been overlooked. I never thought that he would be so powerful. Their strength is quite strong, even among void extreme immortals. Looks like there's no hope for the Saint's Sword now. The Heavenly Palace's people were also watching. Emperor Yin of Zhou looked at this incomparable battle, a look of admiration on his face. If he was this powerful, he would not have to work so hard for the Heavenly Palace. He suddenly thought of his son, Zhou Xuanji. He wondered what that boy's strength was now. His smile became bitter. They were father and son, but there was a gap between them that was even deeper than enemies. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 454. Tang Juetian continuously struck out with his palms. The wind from his palms was so strong that Lu Tingjun was unable to get close. Lu Tingjun was wearing black armor and a red cloak. He looked valiant and domineering. He held a red tasseled spear in his hand. The spear's blade was wide and rectangular. His expression was resolute. He held the long spear in his right hand and stabbed repeatedly. His left hand formed hand seals and cast different spells. Wind could increase his speed, water and fire could increase his power, and lightning was even more domineering. Tang Juetian didn't even take out his divine weapon and easily received all of his attacks. Lu Tingjun, my cultivation base has improved, but you haven't. You are no longer a match for me. Tang Juetian laughed proudly, filled with confidence. In the past, he and Lu Tingjun were on the same level, but now he had already left Lu Tingjun behind. Lu Tingjun was indifferent. His eyes were burning, and his aura gradually increased. Right now, he was in a very awkward situation. The favoritism he received from the great heaven god dynasty had decreased because of Emperor Jundao, and his reputation in the world had also been overshadowed by Emperor Jundao. Now that he was facing Tang Juetian, he was actually unable to gain the upper hand. Bang! An extremely powerful aura came from the horizon. Countless sword shadows turned into a desolate mountain and river, rushing over with unstoppable force. Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun subconsciously turned around to block. Countless sword shadows collided with them, bursting forth with dazzling light. Everyone looked over and saw Zhou Xuanji walking over on a river of swords. He had changed into white clothes and was not wearing the iron mask. The all-evil yin-yang destruction and the holy light godly shadow sword in his hands caused gusts of wind to swirl around him. The people from the heavenly palace were all moved. Zhou Xuanji's face had long since spread throughout the heavenly palace, and Emperor Yin of Zhou felt as if he had been struck by lightning. "Who are you?" Tang Juetian shouted loudly as he frowned. The sight of nearly 200 divine swords was truly spectacular. In the present age, there were not many people who liked to use so many swords. Most importantly, he could tell at a glance that Zhou Xuanji only had 10th Revolution Golden Immortal Cultivation. "Divine Cliff, Zhou Xuanji replied. Immediately, 50 legendary swords rose up, each giving off a powerful light, as they spun around him at high speed. There was no pattern to them at all, and they were as wild as the wind. Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. With the support of Heavenly Law Immortal Energy, Zhou Xuanji's speed greatly increased, and he quickly came before Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun. 50 divine swords attacked them fiercely, catching them off guard. Tang Juetian immediately took out his great emperor's divine weapon. It was a large blade that was wrapped in raging flames. The blade took up a third of the entire blade, and there was a dragon's head at the tip of the blade, looking incredibly domineering. He slashed out with his saber, and the saber chi that was like a violent storm deflected more than 20 divine swords. Lu Tingjun was forced into a passive position. This scene frightened the spectators. As soon as Zhou Xuanji appeared, he suppressed Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun. Some cultivators with high cultivation bases were dumbfounded. A 10th Revolution Golden Immortal was this powerful? As expected of a Grade 1 Great Emperor, it seems like the rumors are true. Too strong, crossing realms to fight, and 1 against 2. Between him and Emperor Jundao, who is stronger? What does he control so many swords? It feels like every sword's trajectory is different. They're all so strong. The cultivators began to discuss among themselves in shock. Emperor Yin of Zhou's expression was complicated. It had only been a few decades, and Zhou Xuanji had already reached such a level. If he had protected Lady Zhao Xian and her son back then, his current situation would be completely different. Lady Zhao Xian's beautiful face appeared in his mind. He then thought of the great Zhou's empress. In the end, even though he had ascended, he had not left anyone behind. There was only boundless loneliness accompanying him. Zhou Xuanji used Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep and quickly injured Lu Tingjun. However, Tang Juetian was not injured at all. He stared at the great emperor's divine weapon in Tang Juetian's hand and inwardly felt quite shocked. He could sense danger coming from that great emperor's divine weapon. If he was not careful, that divine weapon could fatally attack him. As for Lu Tingjun, he did not place him in his eyes at all. He did not know how strong Void Extreme Immortals were, but the 2 people in front of him were at least above average Void Extreme Immortals. It had to be said that Heavenly Law Immortal Energy and Armageddon Grade swords were indeed powerful. He felt much more confident and started to try to condense the 9 sword souls. Using 2 domineering divine abilities at the same time would be a great challenge to his soul's endurance. He had always tried and had succeeded before, but it was not stable enough. In battle, he could always challenge his limits. After each battle, he would become stronger because of this method of challenging his limits. It was just like training. Muscles used up a lot of energy, but after resting, they would become stronger. Clang! The 2 Armageddon Grade swords slashed against the saber, giving off countless sparks. Tang Juetian was more powerful than Zhou Xuanji, but Zhou Xuanji had Heavenly Law Immortal Energy, so he was not at a disadvantage at all. Lu Tingjun was blocked by the 20 swords and could not get close to Zhou Xuanji at all. He did not dodge. Under everyone's gazes, he had to gain face for himself and could not bring shame to the great Heaven God dynasty. Tang Juetian started a fight with his full strength. The great emperor's divine weapon gave off a domineering aura, forcing Zhou Xuanji back with a saber strike. The 9 sword souls behind Zhou Xuanji continuously slashed out. Sword light flashed, but they were all blocked by Tang Juetian. Zhou Xuanji, you're indeed incredible, but don't think about defeating me. Tang Juetian wildly laughed. He looked very domineering, but he was inwardly panicking. If he was defeated by a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal, he would lose a lot of face. Even if he returned to the clan, the elders would still punish him. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Zhou Xuanji's gaze became serious, and the other legendary swords also joined Sword Sect Immortal Weep. Close to 200 light swords crazily revolved around his body, and as soon as Tang Juetian got close, he was surrounded and attacked. The scene was incomparably spectacular, and the spectators felt their blood boil. Only the people from the heavenly palace had mixed feelings. They had watched Zhou Xuanji grow. Once upon a time, Zhou Xuanji was just an ordinary person in their eyes. Now they could only look up. Emperor Yin of Zhou remained silent, his emotions complicated. In the distance, Wu Qiu and Lan Xiangying were dumbfounded. How can he be so strong? Wu Qiu gulped and asked with a trembling voice. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to be more powerful than him, and not just by a little bit. Lan Xiangying didn't reply. She was also feeling very complicated. Back when he had gone to capture Shirshin Zone, Zhou Xuanji had not been very strong. How long had it been? Was this the talent of a first-class great emperor? Lu Tingjun completely gave up on close combat and cast divine abilities and spells from afar. His attacks were like a vast ocean that flowed endlessly, wave after wave. Zhou Xuanji relied on sword sect Immortal Weep to defend against his attacks, and, at the same time, he resisted Tang Juetian. Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun did not realize that they had unknowingly teamed up. If it was in the past, they would definitely scoff. However, Zhou Xuanji's name was too great and his aura was too powerful, so they had no choice but to work together. In the spectators' eyes, Zhou Xuanji's aura and image were already superior to the other two. Is that all you have? Zhou Xuanji said as he coldly laughed. The World Fool Sword was activated, causing Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjuan's expressions to change. Chapter 455. Ignorant Child. Don't be so arrogant. Tang Juetian coldly harumphed, his shoulders trembled, and flames started to burn on the surface of his body, causing his aura to explode. He wildly swung his saber 18 times at Zhou Xuanji. Saber light flashed, each strike stronger than the one before. The sea of clouds was slashed apart, and the ground below directly collapsed. Zhou Xuanji frowned and instinctively used the Holy Light Divine Shadow Sword and all evil yin-yang destruction to block in front of him. There was a loud bang. Zhou Xuanji was sent flying backward. His qi and blood surged up to his throat, and he almost spat it out. He endured the discomfort and swallowed the blood. Tang Juetian charged over once again. 18 Blades of Madness. It was a peerless saber technique that he had created himself. This saber technique has been recorded in the Tang King clan's library for future generations to learn. This was Tang Juetian's strongest attack. Under his domineering saber qi, Zhou Xuanji was pushed back. Lu Tingjun stopped and frowned as he looked at Tang Juetian. The terrifying might of the emperor's divine weapon caused his heart to palpitate, and he knew that he really wasn't Tang Juetian's match. On the other hand, although Zhou Xuanji was being suppressed, he had not lost yet. He was still resisting. TSK, the Tang King clan also has such a genius. There's finally no need to find a son-in-law. Haha, Emperor Zhao, aren't you afraid of angering War God Xiling? War God Xiling is indeed powerful. He's probably no weaker than Taichu Yudao now. It's a pity for Taichu Yudao. He could have been even stronger and even fought against the heavenly saints. How is little brother Zhou going to win? The Nine Souls chatted happily in Zhou Xuanji's mind without any pressure. Even though it would be very difficult for Zhou Xuanji to defeat Tang Juetian could forget about killing him. There was a lot of heavenly law celestial power in the Tianxia map. It was more than enough to fight against Tang Juetian. Even though Tang Juetian's cultivation was higher than Zhou Xuanji's, using 18 berserk blades of extinction took a great toll on him. Zhou Xuanji immediately unleashed Emperor's Way 1,000-hand sword Buddha. A 30,000-meter-tall golden Buddha rose from the ground, its surface giving off a faint silver light. Its 1,000 hands stretched out, directly swinging their swords towards Tang Juetian. The Emperor's Way 1,000-hand sword Buddha, formed from heavenly law celestial power, was incredibly powerful. Tang Juetian was instantly suppressed and could only passively defend. Damn it! What is this? Tang Juetian's eyes widened, his face filled with shock. Lu Tingjuan's entire body was trembling, and he felt powerless. Too strong. Zhou Xuanji stood at the top of the Buddha's head and looked down at Tang Juetian. Seeing Tang Juetian bitterly struggling, he felt quite delighted. It was his feeling of power. Previously, when he faced malicious Buddha and Xiandaoya, he felt immense pressure and even doubted himself. Now it felt so good. Tang Juetian, on the other hand, felt extremely sullen. Being suppressed by a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal, even Zhou Xuanji felt quite sullen. After all, he was also a genius. Between geniuses, there was no such thing as submission. The ground collapsed in succession, trees were swept away, and mountains were shattered. Everything was like a scene of the end of the world, and it forced the other spectators to dodge. Wu Qiu became excited and said excitedly, "Amazing! He might really win." At this moment, he had already forgotten about everything else and only hoped that Zhou Xuanji could win. If they could defeat both Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun at the same time, the Divine Cliff prestige would definitely soar. In the future, many people might join the Divine Cliff because of Zhou Xuanji. For the Divine Cliff, which had suffered great losses, it was of utmost importance. In the distance, an old beggar lay on a cliff as he watched the battle. It was Di Guanlong's teacher. Back when he had met Zhou Xuanji, he had wanted to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple. He looked quite satisfied and continuously nodded as he smiled and said, "Not bad, not bad. No wonder the demonic emperor and great emperor Dao court want him. Now that they don't dare to enter the Center God province, this boy is mine. A first-class great emperor. Even though I have a first-class great emperor disciple, I haven't nurtured one in a long time." The smile on his face became vulgar, and he almost drooled. Tang Juetian quickly adapted to the 1,000-hand sword Buddha's attacks. He began to fly up and prepare to counterattack. Zhou Xuanji frowned. This boy was so difficult to deal with. Use the world overlord technique to absorb heavenly law, celestial energy, and circulate emperors might to gain the acknowledgement of the heavenly law. A chuckle sounded into Zhou Xuanji's ears, causing his expression to change. Who was talking? He did not have time to think, and immediately did as he was told. The emperor's might of a first-class great emperor exploded out, causing Tang Juetian to feel some pressure. However, with his cultivation, he could still endure it. Traces of formless heavenly law celestial energy descended and entered Zhou Xuanji's body, causing the heavenly law celestial energy in his body to become more and more powerful. Zhou Xuanji seemed to come into contact with something. The pressure on Tang Juetian increased, and he was once again suppressed. The 1,000-hand sword Buddha did not have any sword techniques, and it just randomly slashed out, making it so that Tang Juetian could not find any openings and could only randomly defend. Zhou Xuanji sank into a mysterious state. He felt as if his soul had come to the heavens, and he ignored everything else in the world. Tang Juetian wanted to pull away and fight, but Zhou Xuanji instinctively used universal attraction, making it impossible for him to escape. Lu Tingjun was completely reduced to a spectator. He sighed, looking quite dispirited. Boom! Tang Juetian finally could not hold on any longer and was blasted down, falling into the ruins. Zhou Xuanji came back to his senses, and seeing that Tang Juetian had been defeated, he came back to his senses. That feeling just then, he felt quite excited. He had never thought that the world Buddha art and emperor's might could help him cultivate. As Tang Juetian was defeated, the heavens and earth gradually calmed down. Zhou Xuanji did not follow up with another attack. This was a challenge, not a battle to the death. He looked at Lu Tingjun, using his eyes to ask him if he wanted to continue. Lu Tingjun cupped his fist towards him before turning and leaving. He was willing to concede defeat. The spectators all felt incredibly excited. Heavens! Is a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal really this powerful? Too powerful. No wonder the Divine Cliff was destroyed because of him. Tang Juetian was defeated just like that. He won in a very domineering manner without any tricks. He didn't kill Tang Juetian. That's admirable. The cultivators were all convinced by Zhou Xuanji, and the heavenly palace's people stealthily left. Emperor Yin of Zhou did not stay. He did not have the face to face Zhou Xuanji. After the dust settled, Tang Juetian, who was lying in the ruins, breathed raggedly. He did not even have the strength to stand up. Swish! The holy light redemption sword descended and stabbed into his shoulder, causing him to become furious. In the next second, his expression froze. He could sense that his injuries were recovering. This sword, Zhou Xuanji descended and stopped in the air less than 30 meters away from him. "You're very strong," Zhou Xuanji praised, causing Tang Juetian's mood to become better. "However, you're not as strong as me." Tang Juetian coughed, and blood flowed out of his mouth. After healing Tang Juetian for a while, Zhou Xuanji took his sword and left. Tang Juetian sat up and looked at him with a complicated expression. News of today's battle would definitely spread throughout the Center God province. However, he wholeheartedly accepted his loss. This boy was so strong. Zhou Xuanji put away his sword and flew towards Wu Qiu and Zhou Xuanji. However, on the way, he suddenly disappeared. He opened his eyes again. He found that he had appeared in a forest, and he instinctively became wary. He looked ahead and saw an old beggar lying under a tree, looking somewhat familiar. Chapter 456. What do you want? Zhou Xuanji asked in a low voice, his gaze locked onto the old beggar. Hearing this, the old beggar lay on the grass, scratched his butt, and said with a smile, "Of course I want to take you as my disciple. Have you forgotten our last meeting?" Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. "I'm not interested." Although the old beggar was very strong, he didn't like having an elder above him. The old beggar stood up and said seriously, "I can help you surpass the malicious Buddha and the demonic emperor." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes and said, "I can anyway." The old beggar was so angry that he stood up with his hands on his hips and scolded, "You are becoming stronger, but so are they. When can you catch up with them?" Zhou Xuanji fell silent. He understood the logic, but he did not want to take him as his teacher. Moreover, this person didn't look like a decent person, and he looked even more unreliable than Dao-year-old man. If he wanted to be apprenticed to someone like the old immortal, it should be someone who was unfathomable and calm. The old beggar seemed to see the doubt in his heart. He rolled his eyes and suddenly had an idea. "Do you think I'm unreliable? Let me tell you, Taichu Yu Dao is just a junior in front of me. Back then, if it wasn't for me, the demonic emperor would have died a long time ago. Malicious Buddha once knelt before me." The old beggar started boasting, and Zhou Xuanji almost believed him. He could not help but say, "Just say that you are the heavenly saint who appeared out of nowhere." The old beggar was silent. He suddenly showed a sad expression. Zhou Xuanji's heart skipped a beat, and he said unpleasantly, "Don't tell me that I found out." The old beggar shook his head and said, "I am not him, but he was once of the same generation as me. Do you believe me?" Zhou Xuanji looked at him deeply and asked, "Since you want to take me in so much, why didn't you protect the divine cliff back then? I don't need a master now." He had many ways to become stronger, so why would he need another master? "I was busy back then. Didn't you see that I brought your senior brother Di Guanlong with me? That brat doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He first challenged Han Shuzi, then Taichu Yu Dao. He's now challenging experts all over the world." The old beggar sighed with a very sad tone, but Zhou Xuanji could only hear the aura of arrogance. Zhou Xuanji's heart began to waver. He said hesitantly, "How do I know if you have other motives? Xiandaya even said that he wanted to be my backer." The old beggar was so angry that he laughed. He walked around him and said, "Kid, you're scared, aren't you? You don't even dare to grasp the opportunity when it's in your hands. Do you know how many people are crying and begging me to be their teacher? There's one in the great Emperor Dao court who is my disciple, and he beat Xiandaoya up. One of my crazy apprentices obtained one of the holy swords you sought. Next time, I'll help you get it back. Di Guanlong is very strong, right? Among my subordinates, he's the weakest. No, you're the weakest. Zhou Xuanji was so scared that he hesitated. The old beggar continued to praise his disciple. Zhou Xuanji suddenly took out the ancient god sword. He pretended to be on guard, but he was actually communicating with the 9 souls. How could it be him? Get away from him! Demon Lord Ru Yuan exclaimed. This is a heavenly opportunity. Quickly take him as your master. Emperor Songhai said excitedly. The 2 souls' words clashed, causing Zhou Xuanji to feel quite stunned. Lu Wuji followed and said, This person's name cannot be directly said in the great thousand world, or you will incur the wrath of the heavens. Even though he's unreliable, his ability to teach disciples is unparalleled. Emperor Zhao said, You're praising him like that. Could it be that you're also his disciple? Lu Wuji did not reply. Hearing the soul's words, Zhou Xuanji came to a conclusion in his heart. The old beggar was truly strong, and he was not boasting. He said, How about this? You teach me, and I'll repay you in the future. As for taking you as my master, the old beggar glared at him and shouted, How can you skip the ceremony of taking me as your master? A massive might descended, causing Zhou Xuanji's expression to fall. His right leg weakened, and he half knelt down. He looked at the old beggar in terror. What a terrifying might! He was unable to resist at all. However, the old beggar left him a trace of dignity and did not make him kneel down. From today onwards, you are my disciple. As long as you don't seek death and provoke the old monsters above the 33rd heaven, anyone who is more senior than you will not be able to harm you. Of course, if an opponent from this era defeats you or wants to kill you, I will not act, the old beggar said in high spirits. He raised his head and puffed out his chest as he domineeringly waved his hand and said, To become my disciple, you must defeat everyone in your generation. Otherwise, your death will not be regretted. Di Guanlong has already walked on this path. You're next. Zhou Xuanji stood up and asked, So according to what you're saying, in the future, we disciples will have to kill each other to decide who is the most powerful. He felt that there was a conspiracy. The old beggar rolled his eyes and said grumpily, I'll nurture you all, and then have you all die. Do you have nothing better to do? Zhou Xuanji felt completely at ease. The old beggar said, I'll mark you first so that you won't be killed by the senior apprentice brothers. After saying this, he walked over to Zhou Xuanji and slapped his palm against Zhou Xuanji's chest. In the next second, a picture of a phoenix spreading its wings appeared on Zhou Xuanji's face. Why is there a palm print on your body? Wait! The old beggar cried out in shock. Zhou Xuanji felt quite confused. Wait! Zhou Xuanji looked furious and roared. Back then, the person who ambushed me in the yin-yang boundary was you? Back then, he had almost been killed. The old beggar's expression was strange as he said awkwardly, So that boy was you. What a coincidence. Zhou Xuanji grabbed his neck and said furiously, You almost killed me. Why are you still pretending? Is your memory that bad? The old beggar smiled awkwardly and did not know how to explain. He faked a cough and said, In the future, when you senior apprentice brothers meet, the mark will appear. All right, you can go back now. After saying this, he turned and left. Zhou Xuanji felt quite startled. Oi, you're not going to teach me anything? He held back his anger and reminded the old beggar. The old beggar waved his hand without looking back and said, Didn't I teach you a little before? I'll go and get some treasures for you. Wait for me at the divine cliff. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He did not know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. He did not think too much about it, and left to search for Wu Qiu and Zhou Xuanji. In a pale white space, 16 shadows appeared one after another. They were of different shapes and sizes, and they circled around each other. Revered teacher took in another disciple. A tall and sturdy black figure said. The other shadows also spoke. Could it be that Emperor Jundao? It could also be Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji? It's best not to. I still want to send my disciple to challenge him. If it's Zhou Xuanji, it will be fun. Tis TSK, that old man still dares to run around. Isn't he afraid of being hunted down by the immortal gods? The shadows started chatting. Some were gloating, some were furious, and some were disdainful. There were all kinds of attitudes. The only female shadow said, "That old and scrupulous man wanted to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple before. Why did he wait until now? Is he hiding something from us?" With this, all the shadows fell silent. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. M. Chapter 457. After parting with the old beggar, Zhou Xuanji quickly found Wu Qiu and Lan Xiangying. The two of them curiously asked him where he had gone, and he did not hide it. In any case, he didn't know the old beggar's name. Lan Xiangying muttered, "That person is Di Guanlong's master. He probably has an extraordinary status." Wu Qiu felt envious, but he was very rational. He said, "It's best not to spread this matter. Recently, Di Guanlong has been challenging people everywhere, and the world is in an uproar. Who knows how many enemies he has provoked? Those people can't beat him, and they might come to make trouble for you." Zhou Xuanji nodded. In actuality, he really wanted some trouble to see if the old beggar was boasting. But he quickly threw this thought to the back of his mind. "I can't surf." The three of them returned home. Even though he had not found the saint's sword this time, Zhou Xuanji had defeated Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun, bringing glory to the Divine Cliff. Both of them were from Overlord-class forces. Together with Zhou Xuanji's powerful backer, the Divine Cliff's future became bright again. In the next half a month, news of Zhou Xuanji defeating Tang Juetian and Lu Tingjun quickly spread throughout the Center God province. Zhou Xuanji was a first-class great emperor to begin with. This time, he was a genius who defeated two Void Extreme Immortals, and many people started to promote him. Who was stronger between Zhou Xuanji and Emperor Jundao? If the two first-grade great sovereigns were to fight, both sides would definitely suffer. This was a scene that the other righteous sects would be happy to see. As righteous sects, they could not make trouble for Zhou Xuanji and Emperor Jundao for no reason. He could only incite public opinion and plot against the world. Within the mountain peaks, Baihao Yisin and Fengqiu were currently cultivating, and there were 300 meters between them. The muscular man suddenly descended and stood in front of Baihao Yisin, causing the ground to tremble. Baihao Yisin did not open his eyes and asked, "What is it?" Seeing him, the muscular man was infuriated. He kicked Zhou Xuanji and cursed, "From today onwards, you don't need to target Zhou Xuanji anymore." Baihao Yisin crawled up from the ground. He was first furious, then delighted. He asked in surprise why. Previously, the muscular man forced him to cultivate and mention Zhou Xuanji frequently. Otherwise, now that Baihao Yisin had formed an alliance with Zhou Xuanji, he would hate Zhou Xuanji to death. "Because he became your martial uncle," the burly man said angrily and disappeared on the spot. Baihao Yisin was stunned. What the hell? Not too far away, Fengqiu's eyes widened as he pounded the ground in anger. How hateful! I should have grabbed hold of Zhou Xuanji back then. When Zhou Xuanji and the others returned to the Divine Cliff, it had already been 2 months since the battle at the Nether Demon Stream. Before they had returned, the news of the battle had already arrived. Walking in the Divine Cliff City, the disciples on the way looked at Zhou Xuanji with gazes filled with worship and fanaticism. He's Zhou Xuanji, so handsome, as expected of a first-grade great sovereign. His bearing is truly admirable. Keep bragging. Although he's powerful, you guys are too exaggerated. I have a feeling that the Divine Cliff will reach new heights under his leadership. Since ancient times, has the Divine Cliff ever had a first-grade great sovereign? The disciples whispered to each other. Their attitude was completely different from when Zhou Xuanji left. Zhou Xuanji used his power to prove that it was a wise decision for the Divine Cliff to protect him. It was already strange for a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal to defeat a Void Extreme Immortal. Not to mention that his opponent was one of the strongest Void Extreme Immortals, a second-grade Great Emperor. And it was 1 against 2. This achievement was enough to dispel any doubts. At least, Emperor Jundao had never performed so spectacularly. Zhou Xuanji and the others returned to the Cliff Lord Palace and reported the situation. Yang Yutian was very happy and praised Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji no longer had the spirit of a genius. Instead, he looked mediocre and oily. He was transforming into a true cliff lord, but his power and demeanor had not reached that level yet. The three of them returned to their respective residences. Wu Qiu and Lan Xiangying did not tell anyone about Zhou Xuanji becoming their teacher. Zhou Xuanji did not try to guess their intentions. Trust was necessary sometimes. The human heart was complicated, but not everyone's heart was ugly. After returning to his residence, Zhou Xuanji greeted Xiao Chan and Bai Suan before leaping into the sky and began cultivating. He used world, overlord, and emperor's might to absorb the heavenly law's celestial power. This method could greatly increase his cultivation speed. Half a year passed quickly. Analyze that the sword owner has reached 107 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner obtained glorious gold, lofty great wall sword, celestial shaking, Kuinhong sacrificial sword, hidden sprout. Above the clouds, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. A celestial shaking legendary sword was not bad. Hidden sprout was a seedling of hidden grass. This grass was very useful and was worth planting in large quantities. Zhou Xuanji did not take out his legendary sword, and instead sensed the surging heavenly law immortal energy within his body. Ever since he had obtained this new cultivation method, his cultivation had been improving. However, he was still very far from void extreme immortal. He continued to cultivate. He had now reached 107 years old. If it was on Earth, he might have already been buried in the ground. However, in the Great Thousand World, he was still a child. 3 days later, the Divine Cliff welcomed an esteemed guest. It was Bai Suan's father, Bai Yinxiong. Bai Yinxiong was a true god of the Nine-Heaven Divine Snake clan and was extremely powerful. In the current Divine Cliff, there was no one who could compare to Bai Yinxiong. Under Yang Yutian's guidance, he came to Zhou Xuanji's residence. Seeing Bai Yinxiong, Bai Suan shot into his embrace like an arrow. Bai Yinxiong was tall and had a head of white hair. He looked incredibly domineering and mighty, but seeing his daughter, he gave a kind smile. Xiao Chan walked out and looked at Bai Yinxiong curiously. Yang Yutian smiled and asked, "Where's Xuanji? Senior Bai still wants to see him." Xiao Chan pointed at the sky and said, "He's still cultivating." Yang Yutian felt quite surprised. He could not sense Zhou Xuanji's aura. Was this boy's cultivation that ridiculous? Bai Yinxiong looked over and gave a deep smile as he said, "Good boy." A ray of sword light suddenly descended. It was Zhou Xuanji. He stood in front of Xiao Chan and nodded to Yang Yutian before looking at Bai Yinxiong and saying, "Your daughter is very kind. She helped me ascend a lot." Facing Bai Yinxiong, he was neither servile nor overbearing, but his words were very sincere. Even though he had not needed Bai Suan's help back then, her kindness had moved him. Bai Yinxiong smiled and said, "Of course my daughter is good. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her in the future." Zhou Xuanji nodded and was immediately stunned. What was this? Bai Suan was incredibly excited and quickly flew over to Zhou Xuanji's shoulder. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "She hasn't taken human form yet. Are you willing to let her continue to follow me?" Bai Yinxiong replied, "When the two of you ascended, you already formed a bloodline contract. This is the Nine-Heaven Divine Snake's innate divine ability. She will support your karmic luck, and so will you. From today onwards, the two of you will be connected. You will prosper, and you will suffer." Zhou Xuanji fell into chaos. Then I'll stay by little Xuanji's side. Daddy, in the future, not only do you have to protect me, but you also have to protect him. Bai Suan said as she spat out her tongue. Chapter 458. Bai Yinxiong wanted to talk to Zhou Xuanji alone, so the two of them left Divine Cliff City and came to a dense fog, landing on a mountain peak. They stood side by side, looking into the distance. They were silent for a while. Bai Yinxiong broke the silence and laughed loudly. "Not bad. When I sensed that someone had formed a bloodline contract with my daughter, I was furious. However, when I learned that it was you, I was pleasantly surprised. Even in the current 9-Heaven Divine Snake clan, there wasn't a single first-grade Great Emperor. He did not feel any pressure handing by Suin over to Zhou Xuanji, and the elders in his clan would not say anything. Zhou Xuanji did not know what to say. Why did it feel like he was marrying off his daughter? He did not have that kind of feelings for Bai Suin. He only treated her as a pet. Of course, he couldn't say this out loud. He changed the topic and asked, "Where is the 9-Heaven Divine Snake clan? I rarely hear about your deeds in the Center God province." The 9-Heaven Divine Snake clan had always been a legend of the Center God province, and could even be said to be a legend of the Great Thousand Domains. Bai Yinxiong smiled and said, "Above the 10th heaven, if you have the chance, you can come to my race as a guest. Your fame has already spread throughout the race, and many people wish to meet you." Zhou Xuanji nodded calmly, feeling pleased in his heart. He had already reached the level where everyone in the world knew of him. The immortal God has already created the divine palace in the 9th layer of heaven. Soon, the various forces in the Center God province will be summoned by the immortal God. Also, you must attend the Heavenly Saint sermon. If possible, it would be best if you could get an official position in the divine palace. Bai Yinxiong glanced at him and reminded him meaningfully. Divine palace? Zhou Xuanji thought about it. Previously, he was still wondering why the immortals and gods did not appear. It turned out that they were busy building the divine palaces. He didn't know if this so-called divine palace was similar to the heavenly court in Chinese mythology. Following this, Bai Yinxiong and Zhou Xuanji chatted about everything, occasionally discussing the heroes of the world. During this period, Zhou Xuanji brought up the 18 divine swords. Bai Yinxiong immediately agreed, promising to help him find the 18 holy swords. 2 hours later, the two of them finally returned to the mansion. Bai Yinxiong said a few words to Bai Suin before leaving. Zhou Xuanji stood in front of the gate and thought to himself, "Great ups and downs? Your luck changed?" Before, he had been suppressed by the great Emperor Dao Court and the demonic emperor to the point that he had been unable to breathe. After the birth of the Heavenly Saint, he had a powerful backer and was favored by the 9-Heaven Divine Snake clan. Now, he could finally be like the geniuses of the other major forces and display his brilliance without fear. He could even secretly take the northern wilderness region under the control of the Divine Cliff. He began to miss his wife and daughter, especially Jiang Shui. This was the first time he had not seen her for such a long time. This girl must be thinking of him too. He smiled faintly and leaped into the sea of clouds to continue cultivating. In the past 6 months, he had discovered a way to cultivate without being discovered by others. It was very dangerous to absorb the celestial power of the heavenly law in the sky. He used the celestial power of the heavenly law to wrap himself up and hide his figure and aura, becoming one with heaven and earth. Even Yang Yutian, who was a true god, did not notice his existence due to his carelessness. If he could use this state in battle, it would definitely become a killing technique. However, in order to enter this state, one needed time to calm their mind and focus. Trying to achieve it in battle was tantamount to courting death. Above the mysterious tribulation crater, the Tao Heaven sect was like before, like an eternal kingdom in the sky. A figure stood on a cliff at the edge of the mysterious tribulation crater, looking up at the Tao Heaven sect. He was wearing a black robe with python patterns on it and had a dragon crown on his head. His figure was tall and straight, and his eyes were cold and filled with veins of blood. Looking at the sky, he gave a cruel smile. "Taichi Yu Dao, I didn't think you'd already become so old. You've let down your cultivation. You've let down your cultivation," he muttered to himself as he walked towards the sky. A towering killing intent exploded out like a blood-red tornado, sweeping up dust and sand and scattering the sea of clouds. A massacre was about to unfold. The second month after Bai Yinxiong left, Zhou Xuanji returned to his residence to rest, and Fei Hai came to find him. "Senior, Shi Shenzong has already won the 100 Swords Martial Gathering and obtained the Heaven and Earth Sword Embryo. Sword Sovereign Gu greatly praises him and even asked Shi Shenzong to stay and receive his teachings," Fei Hai said excitedly. Even though Shi Shinzong was not at the Divine Cliff, he believed that Shi Shinzong would come back. The Hegemon Sword Emperor could not keep the Sword Saint. Zhou Xuanji knew about the 100 Swords Martial Gathering, and Sword Sovereign Gu was the most powerful sword cultivator in the Center God Province. The Heaven and Earth Sword Embryo could be used to forge a Rui legendary sword, which could only be used by him. He was not interested in the Heaven and Earth Sword Embryo. After all, he had the Supreme Legendary Sword System. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "It's not bad for him to have this opportunity. However, it's impossible for him to catch up to me." Fei Hai nodded. He did not doubt this at all. "Do you know where Xian Xianghua is?" Zhou Xuanji asked. After ascending for so long, he had not received any news about Xian Xianghua. The more time passed, the more worried he became. Fei Hai shook his head, and Zhou Xuanji could only give up. That day, a piece of news spread to the Divine Cliff City, causing the entire city to explode. The Dao Heaven sect had been slaughtered. Taichu Yu Dao had died in a seated posture in a Daoist temple, his body petrified. When Zhou Xuanji heard about this, he felt quite confused. In his eyes, Taichu Yu Dao was an incredibly powerful existence, and he had once been the most powerful expert in the Center God Province. He had died just like that. He quickly came to the Cliff Lord's palace. Yang Yutian, a group of elders and core disciples were all there with serious expressions. The Divine Cliff had a good relationship with the Dao Heaven sect, and they had both been attacked by malicious Buddha. Now that the Dao Heaven sect had been slaughtered, would the Divine Cliff follow in their footsteps? Yang Yutian's expression was the most unsightly. As a Cliff Lord, he felt the greatest pressure. Seeing Zhou Xuanji come in, the tense atmosphere did not ease. Zhou Xuanji asked, "How long has it been since the Dao Heaven sect was slaughtered?" Wu Qiu replied, "Half a month." Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "Why did it take so long for news to spread?" Wu Qiu explained that no one from the Dao Heaven sect had survived, and it was only discovered when a cultivator visited the Dao Heaven sect. In other words, this battle did not cause too much of a commotion. The Dao Heaven sect's enemy was unimaginably powerful. The palace fell into deathly silence, and no one spoke. Don't think about it. After Han Shuzi died, no one in the Divine Cliff is worth him attacking. Just focus on developing. The Divine Cliff is only a second-rate faction now. A condescending laugh sounded throughout the palace, causing everyone's expressions to fall. Zhou Xuanji's expression became strange. Cheap teacher? The old beggar appeared beside him and put his hand on his shoulder as he chuckled and said, "Disciple, did you miss your teacher?" Disciple? Everyone stared with wide eyes and strange expressions. Zhou Xuanji sighed and introduced the old beggar to everyone. Hearing that the old beggar was Di Guanlong's teacher, everyone became excited. Yang Yutian hurriedly asked, "Senior, who was the person who destroyed the Dao Heaven sect?" The Dao Heaven sect was one of the top existences in the Center God Province, and it had been destroyed just like that. This was simply too shocking. The old beggar shrugged and smiled as he said, "That person disappeared 500,000 years ago and died 150,000 years ago. He was buried by his sworn brother, Emperor Xia." Chapter 459. That person was once the most outstanding genius of the Center God Province. He was in the same situation as this disciple of mine, being suppressed by various forces and suffering unspeakably. Fortunately, he persevered and rose in the end. He naturally wanted revenge. Back then, Taichu Yu Dao had suppressed him. Everyone in the hall widened their eyes. They had not expected Taichu Yu Dao to have such a past. In their impression, Taichu Yu Dao was unfathomable, kind, and benevolent. He had actually suppressed geniuses before. They could not help but look at Zhou Xuanji, feeling a chill in their hearts. Fortunately, Zhou Xuanji was one of them. Zhou Xuanji felt quite speechless. "Why are you looking at me? It's not like I slaughtered the Dao Heaven sect." Yang Yutian asked. "In other words, our Divine Cliff is not in danger." The old beggar nodded before pulling Zhou Xuanji and preparing to leave. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. What's that person's name? Why haven't you told me? The old beggar whispered, Mo Jiuqing Shu. He is also my disciple. Hmm? Zhou Xuanji's face twitched. The others heard it too, and their expressions became strange. The terrifying expert who slaughtered the entire Dao Heaven sect was his disciple. Adding on Di Guanlong and Zhou Xuanji, just how many disciples did that fellow have? The two of them quickly left the Cliffmaster Hall. The pressure on the others also disappeared instantly. Elder Yuquan smiled and said, Our divine cliff has benefited from Brother Zhou's master. Yang Yutian's emotions surged, and he began to look forward to a beautiful future. The other side, Zhou Xuanji and the old beggar left the divine cliff city and came to a forest in the distance. Tell me about Mo Jiuqing first. How powerful is he? Isn't he afraid of angering the immortal gods by doing this? Zhou Xuanji asked out of curiosity. He had mixed feelings. He had a good impression of Taichu Yudao. Taichu Yudao had even protected him. The old beggar shook his head and said, I don't know how strong he is. That guy has already betrayed me. He is blinded by hatred, but you don't have to be afraid. He won't harm his fellow disciples. As for whether the immortal gods will find trouble with him, let them. He was not worried about Mo Jiuqing at all. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. He wondered how many disciples this guy had. The old beggar smiled and said, From today onwards, I will teach you a divine ability. I will only leave after you have learned it. What I will teach you in the future will depend on my mood. Divine ability? What divine ability? Zhou Xuanji asked. The old beggar raised his finger and touched his forehead. Boom! A huge wave of memories surged into his mind, and it felt like the supreme legendary sword system's divine ability. After a while, he opened his eyes, a look of amazement on his face. The old beggar sat under a tree not far away, crossed his legs, and said with a smug smile, Am I very strong? Zhou Xuanji nodded and took a deep breath. This thaumaturgy was called Evil Spirit Retribution, where he used this divine ability on his enemies. All the attacks he made within the time limit would suddenly descend on the enemy after a period of time. This divine ability was simply terrifying. It didn't make any sense. He looked up at the old beggar and asked curiously, Did you create this magical power? How did you create it? There was no cultivation method for evil spirit retribution. Just now, when the old beggar gave him the inherited memory, he also passed him a strange energy. This kind of energy fused with his soul, allowing him to comprehend this divine ability directly. However, it would take a long time to familiarize himself with this ability. Nonsense. How can you imagine my creativity? Don't ask, I'm just that strong. The old beggar said proudly with a smile that deserved a beating. Zhou Xuanji asked further, Do all your disciples know evil spirit retribution? What if he became enemies with other disciples one day? This divine ability was too ridiculous and impossible to defend against. The old beggar shook his head and said, Other than you, only one person knows it. It's a pity that guy disappointed me too much. He's probably thinking about killing me every day now. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. Thinking about killing you? How did you teach your disciples? He remembered that Di Guanlong was also very impatient with the old beggar. But it was true. This guy's character was too jumpy and annoying. After that, Zhou Xuanji began practicing evil spirit retribution. In the beginning, he could only cast it for half a second, and the explosive time was 3 seconds later. It was far from enough. According to the inherited memory, if he reached great accomplishment, he would be able to control time as he pleased. He could even cast the divine ability in advance and attack the air for 2 hours. After that, he would look for an enemy and attack again, unleashing the attack that he had used for 2 hours. Most importantly, this attack would definitely hit the enemy, and the enemy could not dodge it and could only block it head-on. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. If he could reach great accomplishment with evil spirit retribution, his strength would greatly increase. When that time came, he could use the Furious Ape Sword to store up energy for 100 years and use evil spirit retribution against an enemy. When the sword chi shot out, even if the enemy blocked it, after a while, the 100 years of sword chi would appear again. He could not understand how a divine ability like this could exist. The old beggar gave a pleased smile and said, "I've created many powerful divine abilities. Evil spirit retribution isn't the most powerful. Treat me well in the future, and I'll consider whether or not to teach it to you." Zhou Xuanji ignored him and focused on cultivating. 3 months after the Dao Heaven sect was destroyed, the Tang King clan was attacked by Mo Jiuqing. War god Xiling and many of the Tang King clan's ancestors attacked, and in the end, more than half of the clan was killed. War god Xiling was heavily injured, and that battle shook the heavens and the earth. If it wasn't for the immortal gods, the Tang King clan might have been massacred. This news once again shook the world. Mo Jiuqing's name also spread, and all sorts of things about him were dug up. He had been a top-tier expert 500,000 years ago. Before that, he had been the #1 genius and a first-class great emperor. He had been suppressed by various factions, and he had become the disciple of a mysterious teacher. He had risen up, and he had fought with the heroes of the world before mysteriously disappearing. From then on, his name had become taboo, and the various factions had tried to cover up this shameful past. This made everyone think of Zhou Xuanji. How similar was Zhou Xuanji's experience to Mo Jiuqing's? In just an instant, while everyone feared Mo Jiuqing, a storm of discussion erupted. If a genius was suppressed by the heroes of the world, what would they do? This sort of thing was not uncommon, but Mo Jiuqing was simply too terrifying. In less than half a year, he had destroyed 2 overlord-level factions. Within a mountain range, Baihao Yisin and Feng Kuel sat in front of the well-built man, dumbfounded. "Revered teacher, you have such a ridiculously powerful junior apprentice brother?" Baihao Yisin asked excitedly. Mo Jiuqing's performance had completely shocked him. Feng Kuel was also shocked. However, he felt even more unwillingness and regret. After all, Zhou Xuanji was from the same sect as Mo Jiuqing. The well-built man coldly harumphed and said, "I don't have a junior apprentice brother like him. He's blinded by hatred and is not worthy of being called an expert." Baihao Yisin said disdainfully, "Only those who are deeply in love can contend for the great Tao." His eyes burned with passion, and he suddenly wanted to see Mo Jiuqing. Having such a person as his martial uncle was simply too awesome. However, thinking about how Zhou Xuanji was also his martial uncle, his mood instantly plummeted. Chapter 460. Cultivate well. Don't be too happy. Mo Jiuqing's recklessness might draw the wrath of the immortal gods for us, the muscular man said as he stared at Baihao Yisin. The muscular man glared at Baihao Yisin. He loved and hated this disciple in front of him. Baihao Yisin was his most talented disciple, but he had a bad temper and was always sloppy. Although Baihao Yisin had already become a true god before he descended, to him, true god was not the end. But now, this brat was only a revolution golden immortal. Every time the muscular man saw him, he wanted to beat him to death. "Revered teacher, don't worry. I will become more powerful soon," Baihao Yisin said unconcernedly. Baihao Yisin said unconcernedly. In his heart, cultivation was never the most important thing. No matter how hard he cultivated, he would always meet someone more powerful. Feng Kuel sensed the murderous aura and quickly pulled Baihao Yisin, signaling him to shut up. Baihao Yisin looked up and saw that the muscular man's face had already turned into a demon, and his murderous aura soared into the sky. He immediately shut his mouth, but his thoughts were on Mo Jiuqing. The storm of revenge that Mo Jiuqing stirred up made it difficult for the Center God Province to calm down. After the Dao Heaven sect and the Tang King clan, who would be the next faction? Previously, the immortal gods saving the Tang King clan caused a huge commotion. The immortal gods finally appeared. The Center God Province would welcome the era of immortal gods. But none of this had anything to do with Zhou Xuanji. He was still practicing evil spirit retribution in the forest near the Divine Cliff. The old beggar would occasionally sneak into the Divine Cliff City to steal good wine and food. Yang Yuqian knew that they were in the forest, so he ordered that no disciple should come close so that they would not disturb Zhou Xuanji and his disciple. Half a year later, Zhou Xuanji had great attainments in evil spirit retribution. He could cast it for 3 breaths of time, and the explosive effect was 10 breaths later. It seemed right, but it was enough to kill the enemy. The old beggar was very satisfied. He shook the wine flask and said with a smile, "I like to teach geniuses. I took in an idiot before, and he reduced my lifespan. How is that person now?" Zhou Xuanji asked casually. He often heard the old beggar mention his other disciples, and each one was more powerful than the other, which made him suspicious. He's not in the Center God province anymore. He went to another place to be a Buddha. The old beggar replied casually. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji suddenly stopped and turned to look at him. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Is it 9th Nether Buddha?" He had heard of the 9th Nether Buddha in the Nether Realm. He was the strongest expert in the Nether Realm. The old beggar rolled his eyes at him and said snappily, "9th Nether Buddha? That's one of the supreme figures of creation. So how could he possibly be my disciple?" The reason why the netherworld has always been able to maintain peace and order without anyone disturbing it is precisely because of his strength. Your senior brother is still far from the 9th Nether Buddha, but if he were to be placed in the Center God province, he would be invincible. Zhou Xuanji heard him and asked with squinted eyes, "You mean that the Center God province is not the most powerful province in the Great Thousand World?" The Center God province was big enough in his eyes, but he did not know how big the boundless universe was. That's only natural. The Center God province is only located in the center of the Great Thousand World. In terms of strength, it can't be considered the peak. Many ancient experts are hiding in the wider world to concentrate on their cultivation. If all of them were to enter the Center God province, the structure of the Center God province would definitely be reshuffled. The old beggar said gloomily. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji had even more questions to ask. He immediately waved his hand and said, "Stop asking and focus on your cultivation. I'm bored out of my mind here. I want to go out and play quickly. Don't delay me." Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly and continued to cultivate evil spirit retribution. With the swine-culling sword in his hand, he hacked at a giant boulder. He did not use any magic energy and controlled his strength to prevent the boulder from shattering. A month later, the old beggar felt that he had mastered it, so he decided to leave. "This bead is for you. This bead is not simple. I can't tell you what it is for now. You must carry it with you at all times and don't put it in your storage bag." The old beggar opened his right hand, and a red bead the size of a thumb appeared in his hand. It looked like a glass ball. Zhou Xuanji took the bead. Before he could ask, the old beggar disappeared into thin air and left. He looked at the red bead for a while, but could not figure out what it was. So, he took out a special string and hung the bead around his neck. He did not continue to cultivate evil spirit retribution. The current evil spirit retribution was enough for him. He had to continue to increase his cultivation. Cultivation was the most important thing. After returning to his residence, he saw Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen cultivating together. Fei Hai was nowhere to be found, and the other servants were busy with their own tasks. He did not disturb anyone, but went back to his room to pack up. After that, he flew into the sky and began to extract heavenly law celestial energy. 3 days later, a piece of news came to the Divine Cliff. Mo Jiuqing massacred the 8 Desolate Spirit sect. The 8 Desolate Spirit sect was one of the Overlord-level factions. It was located in the west of the Center God province and controlled 23 mortal realms. It was extremely powerful. But this time, before the immortal gods could descend, the 8 Desolate Spirit sect was massacred. No one survived. Mo Jiuqing only left a line of words in blood on the stone steel of the 8 Desolate Spirit sect's gate. 10,000 years of blood feud. One more eliminated. The world was in an uproar. Countless people were terrified. Most of the people from the Tang King clan, Dao Heaven sect, and 8 Desolate Spirit sect did not participate in suppressing Mo Jiuqing back then, but they were all massacred. If this continued, would the entire Center God province be massacred by Mo Jiuqing? The Divine Cliff was the most relaxed. Yang Yutian had already informed his disciples that the Divine Cliff had a benefactor helping them. That benefactor was Mo Jiuqing's apprentice brother, so he would not be implicated. Of course, this must not be spread out. Zhou Xuanji did not know about Mo Jiuqing's latest news. He was still cultivating on the clouds. This day, he opened his eyes suddenly and took out the spirit communication heart. Marquis's voice came. "This is bad. A true god discovered the northern wilderness region. He has already entered the upper realm. If he sends the location of the northern wilderness region back to the upper realm, the northern wilderness region will surely be destroyed." Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji frowned and said with a deep voice, "I will return now." He stood up and thought for a while before slamming down with his palm and activating 9 Hell Flame Extinction. He wanted to seek help from the Divine Cliff, but Yang Yutian was the only true god left in the Divine Cliff City. If he left and something happened to the Divine Cliff, Zhou Xuanji could not bear the responsibility. He quickly entered the yin-yang boundary, northern wilderness region, in a world of ice and snow. Demon Emperor Dugu stood on the peak of a snowy mountain and looked down. Through the drifting snow, he saw a silhouette radiating a dazzling radiance that even the snow could not conceal. That person wore silver-white armor and looked majestic. He was 30 meters tall, and his eyes were filled with a powerful radiance that no one could see his pupils. He was like an unparalleled war god. Just by standing still, he gave off an aura of invincibility that could withstand the collapse of the world. Demon Emperor Dugu gritted his teeth and said, "Lu Jingfeng, why are you here?" He felt as though he was facing a great enemy. He knew how terrifying this person was. Lu Jingfeng turned to look into the distance and said calmly, "Massacring the northern wilderness humans and capturing Dark North Monarch Tao." Chapter 461. Hearing Lu Jingfeng's words, a murderous intent flashed in Demon Emperor Dugu's eyes. Their eyes met, and they could see through each other's thoughts. "If you try to stop me, I will destroy your soul," Lu Jingfeng said indifferently. He raised his right hand slowly, and a beam of light shot out from his palm and formed a blade of light. He walked up to the peak and stared at Devil Emperor Dugu. He found Devil Emperor Dugu the moment he arrived in the northern wilderness region. He was shocked that he was still alive, so he did not start a massacre, but went to find Devil Emperor Dugu first. There were too many powerful cultivators in the northern wilderness region, and it had many secrets. It was not easy for the northern wilderness region to survive under the suppression of so many factions. Does the Xian court have a feud with the northern wilderness region? Why do you want to be used? Devil Emperor Dugu did not panic at all and said casually. Strands of demonic chi flowed out from his body and formed a demonic cloud, stopping the snow. Lu Jingfeng stared at him and said, "It's not a feud. I just dislike the demonic emperor. I'll give you a chance. Acknowledge me as your master, and I will spare your life." Devil Emperor Dugu's talent was astounding. Back then, he was famous in the Center God province. The Xian court wanted to rope him in, but they did not have a chance. Now that the Xian court was chased out of the Center God province by the heavenly saint, Lu Jingfeng traveled around. Coincidentally, he discovered the northern wilderness region. He quickly made a decision to massacre the northern wilderness humans. Then, he would support a new race to regain control of the northern wilderness region and plan for the future. "You're so confident that you can kill me? Even Han Shuzi could not kill me. Who do you think you are?" Devil Emperor Dugu said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he swooped down towards Lu Jingfeng. Zhou Xuanji came to the netherworld and realized that he was not in Magistrate Chui's territory. He frowned. He could not descend to the mortal realm because his cultivation would be suppressed by the power of heavenly law. No one in the Divine Cliff could help him resist the power of heavenly law. He could only enter the netherworld directly and descend into the northern wilderness region. He could not pass through other mortal realms along the way. Without much hesitation, he moved quickly. The netherworld was mostly similar. It was filled with eerie chi and never saw sunlight. Not long after, he caught a ghost messenger. The truth sword was useful against ghost soldiers too. He asked how far this place was from Magistrate Chui's territory. The answer was a relief to him. The owner of this netherworld was Judge Zhao, who was Judge Chui's neighbor. The relationship between them was not bad. At least there was no enmity between them. He didn't go straight to Magistrate Zhao, but let the ghost messengers lead the way. He wanted to immediately go to the underworld where Magistrate Chui was. The ghost messenger was forced to bring him to the edge of the Yellow Springs. Drive in this direction, and you'll reach Judge Chui's underworld region. It had always been pierced by the truth sword, so it could only speak the truth. Zhou Xuanji asked, "How do I cross the river? Can we fly there directly?" There were too many legends about the Yellow Springs, so he had to be cautious. The ghost messenger said with a trembling voice, "Either you ride the Een boat to cross the river, or you fly over. But if you accidentally fall into the river, even if you're a true god, your soul will definitely scatter." Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "Are there any restrictions on the Yellow Spring? How far is it?" The emissary replied, "There aren't any restrictions, but it's very far. As for how far, I don't know, but even a Nitya Helgar would be able to fly." Having heard it, Zhou Xuanji immediately threw it down and flew away on his sword. He didn't have the time to look for more boats. No matter how fast the ship of the netherworld was, it was still not as fast as he could fly on his own. Even though he used the true sword, he was still a little uneasy. But when he thought of his wife and daughter, his heart became strong and fearless. He flew at full speed. After flying for 6 hours, he finally reached the shore. He headed straight for the Judge Palace. At the same time, in the Judge Palace, Judge Chui chased out all the ghost messengers and was alone. He frowned and fell into deep thought. He sighed faintly. "Zhou Xuanji, oh Zhou Xuanji, I still underestimated you. There are too many people fighting for you. How long can I protect you?" Zhou Xuanji's potential was worthy of his protection, but there were even more powerful beings fighting for him. He was now in a passive position. After a long while, Zhou Xuanji rushed into the Judge Palace hurriedly and said urgently, "Judge Chui, the northern wilderness region is in trouble. Send me back quickly." Judge Chui did not look surprised, but looked at him calmly. The northern wilderness region was found by Lu Jingfeng from the Xian court. Not to mention how powerful the Xian court is, there will be more powerful factions searching for the northern wilderness region in the future. How long can you protect them? Judge Chui asked slowly as he locked his gaze on Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Zhou Xuanji's heart sank. "Someone threatened you?" he asked. "Xian court? What did it have to do with Xian Daoya?" Xian Daoya had been to the northern wilderness region before, so it was not difficult for him to find the northern wilderness region. To prevent the demonic emperor from becoming more powerful, he indeed had the motive to massacre the northern wilderness humans. Judge Chui sighed and said, "Zhou Xuanji, I value your potential and endured unimaginable pressure for you. Don't let me down." After that, he stood up and prepared to bring Zhou Xuanji back to the northern wilderness region. Zhou Xuanji was silent and looked at Judge Chui with a complicated expression. Judge Chui's support for him was equivalent to saving his life. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to repay him, but only hoped that Zhou Xuanji would help him after he became more powerful. Judge Chui seemed to have an ulterior motive, but it was nothing compared to what Zhou Xuanji had done. "I will not promise anything. You are no longer just a friend in my heart," Zhou Xuanji said softly. Judge Chui heard him and smiled. The two walked out of the judge palace side by side. They were silent along the way. They came to a cliff. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "This is the second time you are sending me off." Judge Chui shook his head and said with a smile, "Now, I don't want to persuade you anymore. Follow your heart and hope that you will always be as determined as you are now. I also hope that I can send you off for the third time, the fourth time, or even more." He waved his right hand. Just when Zhou Xuanji was about to speak, he was swept away by a powerful force and disappeared into the billowing clouds. Zhou Xuanji's vision darkened, and he felt that the world was spinning. He did not lose consciousness. He was no longer the same as before after all. Northern Wilderness Region. I'm back. At Skyfall, Jiang Shui sat under a tree at the top of the mountain and was knitting clothes. She looked so beautiful against the starry sky. Zhou Shaoxian appeared beside her and squatted down. Mother, you are knitting again. These clothes are useless to father. Why do you need to knit one every year? She said with a pout. Jiang Shui smiled and said, I want to remember his age. She watched Zhou Xuanji grow up. Since he was 2 years old, she would knit clothes for Zhou Xuanji every year. She wanted to maintain this habit. Zhou Shaoxian pouted. She sighed when she thought of her father. She often went out to train. The geniuses and influential people she met were even older than her father. When those geniuses were still competing in the Northern Wilderness Region, her father had already ascended. While she was proud, she also felt a sense of pressure. She did not want to embarrass Zhou Xuanji. Who said it's useless? I like the clothes your mother knitted for me. Zhou Xuanji's voice came suddenly, which made Jiang Shui and Zhou Shaoxian open their eyes wide. Chapter 462. Zhou Xuanji appeared beside Jiang Shui and stroked her hair with a gentle look in his eyes. Jiang Shui looked up in surprise and immediately leaped into his arms. You're finally back, she mumbled softly as a smile appeared on her face. Zhou Xuanji hugged her tightly and said, This time, I will bring you along. Her body trembled slightly, and her smile became even more blissful. Zhou Shaoxian was a little jealous and cried out, Oi, oi, father, aren't you going to greet me? She sounded like she was complaining, but there was a tinge of excitement in her voice. Zhou Xuanji had been away for so many years, and his image in her heart grew. Somehow, when she saw her father again, she felt that he was giving off a divine aura that made him seem superior. Zhou Xuanji glanced at her and said, Why aren't you married yet? Zhou Xuanji almost laughed out loud when he heard this. Are you still my father? You want me to marry so badly? Humph, if I don't surpass you, I won't marry. Zhou Xuanji looked at her in astonishment and said, You want to be a single dog forever. Zhou Shaoxian was so angry that she wanted to grab him, but was stopped by Jiang Shui. Don't mess with your father. He's mine. Go back and cultivate first. Don't disturb our time alone. Jiang Shui pinched her face and snorted. Zhou Shaoxian was heartbroken. She stomped her foot and snorted coldly before leaving furiously. Only Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui were left on the summit. The two sat under the tree and hugged each other tightly. Zhou Xuanji first asked Jiang Shui how she spent all these years. Jiang Shui replied with a smile that she had never left Skyfall and had been cultivating every day. With the help of the colorful celestial fruit, she had already reached Great Realization Level 1. After that, Zhou Xuanji told her about his experiences. Jiang Shui's heart tightened as she listened. Even though he spoke casually, she could feel the pressure. How nervous was he when he was being hunted by malicious Buddha and Xian Daoya? She did not dare to imagine. She also learned about Daoya Old Man's identity from that. Should we tell Grand Teacher about this? Although he was formed from a split of Xian Daoya's soul, I believe he will not harm you. He had no choice. We should help him escape his suffering. Zhou Xuanji nodded. He never hated Daoya Old Man. He sighed and said, Don't worry about him for now. A true god has arrived in the Northern Wilderness Region. Jiang Shui glared at him and grabbed his collar tightly. She said uneasily, You're going again. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and said, After this battle, I will build a portal on Skyfall that connects to the Divine Cliff. In the future, when people from the Northern Wilderness Region ascend, they can enter the Divine Cliff directly. Jiang Shui was still very worried, because Zhou Xuanji told her about the stage above Great Tribulation Scattered Immortal. After all, the Void Extreme Immortal stage was between a 10th Revolution Golden Immortal and a true god. The two of them chatted a bit more before Zhou Xuanji gathered all of Emperor Sword Court's higher-ups. Knowing that Zhou Xuanji had returned, everyone was very excited. Zhao, Songjian, Lin Chang'e, and the little black snake pestered Zhou Xuanji, asking him to tell them about the upper realm. Zhou Xuanji stared at them, and everyone quietened down. He told Xiao Jinghong about the teleportation gate and asked Xiao Jinghong to handle it personally. Soon after, he spoke of the crisis of the true gods, which moved everyone. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion came from outside the hall, causing them to turn their heads in shock. A massive aura weighed down on their hearts, and their scalps even felt numb. Zhou Xuanji squinted his eyes and mumbled, "I didn't expect someone to fight against a true god." As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. There was someone who was as powerful as a true god in the northern wilderness region. They thought that Zhou Xuanji was already the most powerful cultivator. They did not expect someone even more powerful. Zhou Xuanji got up and said, "Guard Skyfall and wait for my return." After that, he flew out of the palace like a gust of wind and disappeared into the horizon. Jiang Shui put her palms together and placed them before her chest, praying for Zhou Xuanji. On a grassy plain that had turned into ruins, Devil Emperor Dugu and Marquis stood up with great difficulty. Both of them were covered in injuries and looked extremely pathetic. Marquis spat out a mouthful of blood and cursed, "If I were here, I would have killed you with a slap." Lu Jingfeng levitated in the air with his blade of light and looked down at them. Devil Emperor Dugu looked up. His face was hideous, and his eyes were blood-red like a demon god. He tried his best to channel his demonic qi, which shook the ground violently. "You can't defeat me at all. Why are you still fighting? Trying to buy time? Are you waiting for Zhou Xuanji to come back?" Lu Jingfeng looked down at them and asked coldly, "I'm waiting too. Someone wants him dead." Devil Emperor Dugu and Marquis were not surprised. They continued to look at him viciously. "He is already here. It's time for you to die." After Lu Jingfeng spoke, he slashed down with his blade. Marquis could not dodge in time and turned into ashes on the spot. The horrifying impact sent Devil Emperor Dugu flying away. Far away, Dowseeker and the man in the woven rush raincoat were also watching the battle. The two tribulation executives looked at everything in silence and could do nothing. Devil Emperor Dugu charged out from the billowing dust and charged toward Lu Jingfeng fearlessly. Almost instantly, he came up to Lu Jingfeng and slammed with his palms. The demonic qi around him transformed into ferocious beast heads that bit at Lu Jingfeng with unstoppable force. Lu Jingfeng snorted coldly, and the beast's heads exploded immediately. Devil Emperor Dugu flew backward while vomiting blood. Boom! Lu Jingfeng stomped on Devil Emperor Dugu's chest and sent him crashing into the ground. The ruins collapsed under the immense force and formed a horrifying crater with a diameter of 100 miles. The mountains far away shook violently, and a hurricane swept up the forest. Even the clouds in the sky were dispelled. The power of a true god was far beyond the mortal realm. Devil Emperor Dugu grabbed onto Lu Jingfeng's leg and struggled with all his might. Lu Jingfeng looked down at him from above and said, "Devil Emperor Dugu, I'll give you one last chance. Acknowledge me as your master, and I will spare your life." Devil Emperor Dugu gritted his teeth and said, "I'll be a devil again, but I will never be a slave." Lu Jingfeng frowned. He slashed down with his blade and was about to decapitate Devil Emperor Dugu. Swoosh! An air-piercing sound came. The nine-flame chimera demon sword turned into a stream of sword light and collided with Lu Jingfeng's blade of light. Lu Jingfeng and Devil Emperor Dugu turned around and saw Zhou Xuanji coming over on a river of swords. "If you want to fight, fight me." Zhou Xuanji's cold voice came. He held the holy light, divine shadow sword in his left hand and the all-evil yin-yang destruction in his right hand. Seeing him, Dowseeker and the man in the woven rush raincoat became excited. Zhou Xuanji really came. Lu Jingfeng glanced sideways at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Zhou Xuanji, I've heard of you. a first-class great emperor, and a 10th revolution golden immortal who could kill void extreme immortals. But do you really think you are qualified to challenge a true god? He slowly rose up. He was not in a hurry to kill Devil Emperor Dugu, and he turned his attention to Zhou Xuanji. Do you know how many almighties want you dead? Lu Jingfeng asked with a murderous aura. Countless golden weapons appeared around him. There were sabers, swords, clubs, and halberds. All of them were pointed at Zhou Xuanji. Thunderclouds suddenly gathered, and the might of heaven was vast and mighty. Zhou Xuanji activated the primordial chaos sword shadow too. Countless sword shadows formed into a primordial world of magnificent mountains and rivers, each occupying one side of the sky with Lu Jingfeng. Mobile version of the fastest updated website, M. Chapter 463. There are many people who want to kill me. I don't have time to care about how many there are. Zhou Xuanji replied coldly as he approached Lu Jingfeng on the River of Swords. This was his first time challenging a true god. His heart was filled with excitement. Lu Jingfeng smiled. His smile was filled with killing intent. The number of golden light divine weapons around him reached tens of millions, and they covered the sky and earth. Their might gathered together, causing the earth to tremble. Devil Emperor Dugu and the two tribulation executives looked at him in horror. What a powerful aura! It felt as if the northern wilderness region would shatter at any moment under this pressure. Millions of golden weapons suddenly charged toward Zhou Xuanji. They moved like lightning, and the heavens and earth changed color. The primordial chaos sword shadow followed, tearing apart the sky. It was like the beginning of the primordial world, exploding with all kinds of phenomena. Zhou Xuanji and Lu Jingfeng moved at the same time. Facing a true god, Zhou Xuanji directly used nearly 200 swords and unleashed sword sect Immortal Ghost Weep. 200 beams of silver light circled around Zhou Xuanji's body and charged at him recklessly. They were so fast that it looked like a gigantic silver orb enveloping Zhou Xuanji. The divine weapons and sword shadows that filled the sky clashed together, forming countless explosions that shook the heavens and earth. The terrifying pressure caused the entire northern wilderness region to fall into a calamity. The various city walls of the 5 empires collapsed. Countless lakes and rivers churned and the forests swayed. Avalanches occurred on the snowy mountains one after another, and the white impacts swept through everything. Especially in the sea, monstrous waves suddenly rose, wreaking havoc on the seaside. The arrival of the calamity was beyond the expectations of all living beings in the world. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji and Lu Jingfeng began fighting amidst the explosions. Zhou Xuanji held both swords in his hands and attacked fiercely. He activated the sword soul from time to time, while the sword sect immortal cry around him continued to attack. But it was a pity that they could not hurt Lu Jingfeng. Lu Jingfeng had many divine abilities and was as fast as a phantom. He moved about continuously and attacked Zhou Xuanji from different directions. With the power of 2 Armageddon legendary swords and the heavenly law as celestial energy, Zhou Xuanji could barely fight Lu Jingfeng. Immortal energy? Could it be that this fellow obtained the inheritance of the immortal god? Lu Jingfeng was secretly shocked, and killing intent surged in his heart. Zhou Xuanji felt even more pressure. The difference in their realms was too great. Even with the support of 2 powerful forces, he felt that his body would explode at any moment. It was almost impossible to defeat Lu Jingfeng. Devil Emperor Dugu flew into the air and looked at Zhou Xuanji in shock. This kid, how could he be so strong? How long has it been? His heart was filled with terror. Zhou Xuanji's talent and serendipity far exceeded his imagination. It was so strong that even he was a little afraid. The 2 tribulation executives were simply excited. As long as Zhou Xuanji defeated Lu Jingfeng, the northern wilderness region would survive another crisis. However, good times don't last long. Boom! Lu Jingfeng slashed down Zhou Xuanji with one slash. His body penetrated through the ground and fell tens of thousands of meters deep. There were rocks all around him, and there was no light. Zhou Xuanji gritted his teeth and felt that his internal organs were already shattered. The real god power was really too strong. Lu Jingfeng suddenly rushed in front of him, grabbed his neck with his left hand, and flung him up. Zhou Xuanji lost control of his body and flew out from the ground. He crashed through the thunderclouds and was corroded by countless lightning bolts. I don't believe it. Zhou Xuanji activated the Emperor's Wei Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. The 10,000-meter-tall golden Buddha landed steadily on the ground and slashed at Lu Jingfeng with its 1,000 hands. The power of an ant dares to fight against a god. Lu Jingfeng's cold laughter could be heard. A beam of golden light burst through the surface of the earth and slashed the golden Buddha in half. Peerlessly domineering, Zhou Xuanji's body turned golden, and a 9-sword purple Tai Chi diagram appeared on his forehead. He activated World Overlord and gathered the power of the heavens and earth. Pain could be seen on his face. His body had reached its limit and could not take it any longer. But he had to give it his all. If he lost, Jiang Shui, Zhou Shaoxian, Xiao Jinghong, the old man, and the others would not be able to escape death. Millions of Emperor's Sword Court disciples would die in agony. Go to hell. Zhou Xuanji tossed out the all-evil yin-yang destruction. A black radiance flashed, and the sword penetrated Lu Jingfeng's chest instantly. Void instant kill. Lu Jingfeng was not surprised but smiled mockingly. His body turned illusory, and he appeared behind Zhou Xuanji. His hand blade landed on the back of Zhou Xuanji's neck and knocked him down again. Daoseeker and the man in the woven rush raincoat were in despair. It's over. It's over. There's no escape. Daoseeker sat paralyzed in the ruins. He was dispirited. Zhou Xuanji, you still want to fight? Lu Jingfeng stood high above like the radiant sun. His voice resounded across the northern wilderness region. Only then did the world understand that a powerful enemy was coming. The Sword Emperor who ascended had returned to fight for them. From what Lu Jingfeng said, Zhou Xuanji was at a disadvantage. The billowing dust was dispersed by the sword chi. Zhou Xuanji got up. The holy light redemption sword pierced into his back to heal him. He twisted his neck, and blood flowed from his mouth uncontrollably. Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep was still going on, but to a powerful true god, it was useless. The difference in cultivation stage prevented the legendary swords from keeping up with Lu Jingfeng's speed. He stared fixedly at Lu Jingfeng. His eyes were filled with ferocity without fear. He charged up into the sky again, but he was struck down by Lu Jingfeng in less than 2 breaths' time. Devil Emperor Dugu understood that Zhou Xuanji could not defeat Lu Jingfeng. Zhou Xuanji was already very surprising to him. He gritted his teeth, took out a skull, and raised it above his head. Demon God of the Abyss, your people beg you to descend and eliminate the enemy for me. His hoarse roar attracted Zhou Xuanji, Lu Jingfeng, and the 2 tribulation executives to look at him. Boom! A beam of black light shot out from the skull and pierced through the clouds. A black hole formed by a black cyclone appeared. Lu Jingfeng's expression changed slightly. He came up to Devil Emperor Dugu in 1 step and decapitated him. Blood splattered all over the ground. The skull shattered suddenly and dissipated with the wind. Lu Jingfeng looked up at the black hole, and his face turned dark. A horrifying demonic might descended, including Zhou Xuanji. All living beings in the world felt uneasy. It was as though they were facing death. A pair of blood-red eyes appeared in the black hole. They looked extremely evil. It was as though a gigantic evil god was looking down at the mortal world from the sky. Just the eyes alone were so big. It was unimaginable how big his body was. Demon Ancestor, Lu Jingfeng said with gritted teeth with an unsightly expression. He did not expect Devil Emperor Dugu to be related to the Demon Ancestor. No wonder this fellow was able to escape from Han Shuzi's grasp. Whoosh! At this moment, A horrifying suction force exploded. Countless rocks flew up. Zhou Xuanji and the others quickly lowered their bodies so that they would not be sucked away. Far away, countless humans, demons, and beasts were sucked toward the black hole. Help! What's that? Why? Why is it like this? Who can save me? Ah! It's over. All sorts of cries and screams could be heard. Zhou Xuanji wanted to save them, but he was too severely injured to do so. Lu Jingfeng made his move. He swung his saber wildly at the black hole. Countless saber chi sliced the mortals along the way into a rain of blood. The saber chi entered the black hole and disappeared without causing any sound or damage. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.